Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful Emerald ladies. Thank you all for coming. We are glad to have all of you here today. My name, I said, is Akobundu. I'm the chairperson of this symposium committee, and today I'll be the host of this event. I welcome all of you to this event. Some years ago, I was invited to this great organization by a friend of mine. As is natural with any other invitation, I wanted to know what the mission and vision of this organization were. I also wanted to know what my obligation towards the organization would be. And then she told me, like, primarily the mission of this organization is to care for battered and abused women. I belong to some organizations, some professional, religious, community organization, and actually I belong to a social club. But this was actually unique, because this is the only organization I've heard that was actually looking out for battered and abused women. And I told her, yes, I'm actually interested. I want to be a member. And I'm happy that I am a member of this organization today. This organization, they have carried out so many charitable organizations trying to help the battered and abused women. And that is why today we'll be talking about battered and abused women. We have a seasoned speaker who will be talking to us today, all the knowledge we need, all the information we need to help us carry out this charitable organization. This speaker is well-rounded, and I'm sure she's going to provide us with all the information. Other than caring for battered and abused women, Emerald Ladies cares for its own members too. We are like our sister's keeper. When one is crying, everybody is crying. When one is rejoicing, we're all rejoicing. And that is why we value self-care. Self-care is very, very paramount in the mind of Emerald Lady. Other than, I'm sorry about that. Other than the fact that, we are taking care of battered and abused women, we are also taking care of ourselves. And that is why today we are going to be talking about 2 chronic diseases that really affect majority of the people in our community. It has been shown that, diabetes and hypertension, that they disproportionately affect the Black and brown community. And that is why today, 2 of our speakers, these are also renowned speakers, they'll be talking to us on how to prevent, and if we do have the disease, on how to control it. So this is going to be a very informative section. And I want all of us to please listen. Whatever we are going to gain from this symposium today, don't just keep it to yourself. Share it. Let your family know, your loved ones, the society in general. This is going to help each and every one of us. Having said that, the theme of today's symposium, like you could see, is your wealth, your wisdom, your treasure. What do you say when you say your health, your wisdom, your treasure? I'll tell you what, when we say wisdom, wisdom is the act of being wise. And when you say the act of being wise, what does that mean? the quality of having experience, knowledge, and good judgment. At the end of this symposium, you are going to have that experience, you are going to have that knowledge, and you will make good judgment about your health. And when you do all this, you'll be healthy and you will treasure your health. And treasure is something of great worth of value. And at the end of this day, you will have something that will make you be healthy, your family, your society in general, and you are going to treasure it. And I'm happy to have all of you here today, and we are going to have a great time. I'm going to go through the event, like a rundown of what you expect to have today. We are going to have the first speaker. The first speaker will be talking to us about hypertension. After the first speaker is done, we are going to have a short film, which will showcase some of the charity works Emerald Lady, they've done here in the United States and back home in Nigeria. After that, we are going to get the second speaker. The second speaker will talk to us about diabetes mellitus. After diabetes mellitus, we are going to have a short break. If you want to use the bathroom, you want to have a cup of coffee, you want to stretch your leg, you could do that within a period of 5 minutes. Then when we come back, we are going to have a short video. The short video will be on domestic violence. You and I know that recently, especially in our home country, Nigeria, a lot has been going on with abused and battered women. People have lost their life in the hands of people that claim that they love them. And that is why we will showcase some of the things that are happening actually back home. And try to compare it with what we have here in America and see how we can help our people back home, people that are abused and battered, how we can help them, find safe haven somewhere. And after that, we are going to actually have the speaker, our president, Ms. Ilo, will talk to us, and after that, there will be a closing remark. But I just want to add that after each presentation, there will be a question and answer section. Because of time constraint, we might not take all the questions, but we'll try to accommodate the much we can. And so if you have any question during the presentation, please, we encourage you to just type it in the chat session. The moderators will actually pick from those questions and, ask the speakers, and they are going to maybe shed more light on the question. And to help me today with today's event, I have two of our members who are members of the committee with me, Uzoma Ikwako and Jacinta Obi. And those two will help me today to actually moderate this section. Having said that, I'm going to call on the first moderator, that is Uzoma Ikwako, to introduce our first speaker. Uzoma Ikwako.
Hello, my amazing Emerald members, Emerald ladies standing on the rock. Thank you all for coming here today. As our Ada has said, we have 3 topics in mind, and I am going to introduce to you the person who will be talking on high blood pressure. Her name is Miss Kwankam Maureen. Maureen is from Cameroon. She was born in Jerusalem, Israel. She studied medicine at University of Padova, Italy, and she graduated in medicine and surgery. She did her fellowship in health technology assessment at Alberta Heritage Foundation, Edmonton, Alberta, Canada. She has her master's in public health at Boston University, Massachusetts. She is a family woman. She is a mother of 2. She also did her residency at Bronx Care in the South Bronx of New York City. She has a Nigerian connection. So, her parents studied in Umuahia, Abia State. And I just found her so very well-rounded. She is also a soccer lover. She's waiting to maybe go to Qatar to watch her favorite teams. One of her team is the Indomitable Lions of Cameroon, and also the Arsenal Football Club, London, England, and the Napoli team in Italy. So, Miss Maureen, when you be going to that Qatar, let me know. So, Dr. Maureen loves people. She's already working with the underprivileged communities in our city. And I really love that of her. So, ladies and gentlemen, here is Miss Dr. Maureen Kwankam.
Okay, thank you, Mrs. Uzoma, for such a flattering introduction. And I also want to thank Lolo Ada Akobundu for inviting me and all of Emerald Women Incorporated for having me. It is such an honor. I can't begin to tell you how honored I feel to be here with you today. With not much ado, we should go on. I have just, I'll try to keep to the time. I'm talking today about hypertension, but ordinarily this is high blood pressure. So we'll use the term high blood pressure. Okay. So before we talk about high blood pressure, there is a normal pressure, then high blood pressure. What is blood pressure in the first place? So when we talk about blood pressure, we are talking about measuring your pressure of the arteries. We have arteries, veins, capillaries. So when we measure the pressure of the artery, we call it blood pressure. This is commonly taken on the upper arm, and there it measures the brachial artery pressure, okay? So moving on, we have, as you can see, there are two ways of measuring. Same place, upper arm is where we commonly measure pressure, but we have two devices we use, two types, the auscultatory device or the oscillometric device. The auscultatory device means you hear, you auscultate, you put a stethoscope in your ear, you put the probe on the brachial artery, and you measure the pressure. Or you can also use the automated device, which is known as oscillometric device. This is preferred. It is automatic. It is common. It doesn't need the person measuring it to have to listen to the pressures. You just put the cuff on your upper arm, left or right arm, it doesn't matter. You press the button and it measures the pressure for you. So for adults, this is the preferred method. For kids, the other method is preferred for many other reasons that we won't go into. Okay, so why is blood pressure important? Still, mind you, we are still just talking about blood pressure. We haven't gone into high blood pressure. Why is blood pressure important? Blood pressure is important because of end organ perfusion, or in case it's not good, end organ damage. So blood pressure, I'll just go through just 1 minute of medical jargon here. Blood pressure is equal to cardiac output times systemic resistance. What does that mean? So in layperson terms, when your heart pumps blood, it contracts and it pumps the blood. The blood now moves to the arteries, goes through capillaries to veins, and goes to all your body. As it goes to the body, or meaning to all the organs, that is now known as perfusion. It perfuses all the organs. Then it returns to the heart. The heart is now in a relaxation phase and well relaxed to receive the blood to pump again. Okay, so you can see how the arteries have to be the right pressure for the heart to easily pump that blood. As it pumps the blood, we call that the cardiac output. Okay, so that is the importance of your blood pressure. Now, what happens when the pressure is high? If the pressure is too low, it's not a good thing. If pressure is too high, it's also not a good thing. Pressure has to be right. Okay, so high blood pressure. Before I go into the definition of high blood pressure, why is this? This is such a common thing. Why are we talking about this today? because it is so prevalent. The prevalence of high blood pressure is so high. To put it into perspective, in the United States, 46% of adults have high blood pressure. 46%. And by adults, we mean 40 years and above. 40 years and above. That is that is millions of people with high blood pressure. In our Nigerian community, in Nigeria specifically, high blood pressure is 1 in every 3 adults has high blood pressure, okay? And that number is increasing. The high blood pressure has increased 540% since 1995. I took this from the Journal of Clinical Hypertension, okay? Furthermore, the rate of increase is higher in women than in men. Now, does that mean women have high blood pressure more than men? No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm simply saying women are catching up, okay? In the advent, before emancipation, women historically, especially us back home and even here in the first world, women used to be home, they made babies, they took care of the house, they took care of the family, right? They had less bad habits. By bad habits, I mean things like smoking, alcohol, drinking, etc. Nowadays, women are catching up to men, not only in the good, but also in the bad. So you can see how their rate of blood pressure is growing at a faster rate. They still did not catch up, but if we continue with this trend, we will catch up with men, which is a bad trend. I hope we do not catch up. Yeah. Okay, so now, high blood pressure. What is normal pressure? Normal pressure is 120/80. So whenever you go to your doctor and they write your pressure, they'll write 2 numbers. The top number is known as the systolic pressure. That is when the heart is contracting and pumping that blood. The lower number is known as the diastolic pressure. That is when the heart is relaxed and is receiving blood before it pumps it again. Okay, so the normal blood pressure is 120/80 or less, not more. So if any of these 2 numbers is high, it is still high blood pressure. I give 2 examples. If your blood pressure is 110/90, you still have high blood pressure, because although the 110 is less than 120, the 90, the bottom number, is greater than 80. So it is still high blood pressure. If your blood pressure is 140/70, it is still high blood pressure. Why? Because although the 70, the lower number, is less than 80, but the higher number, the 140, is still greater than 120. So it is still considered high blood pressure. Okay, now we have defined high blood pressure. Moving on. Our next slide tells us the causes high blood pressure. We always say hypertension, high blood pressure. We want to know the cause so that we can stop it. Do we have an exact cause? No. Unfortunately, the answer is no. We do not have a specific cause. High blood pressure is subdivided into 2. You have primary high blood pressure, meaning we do not know why you have high blood pressure. We cannot pinpoint one specific thing why you have the high blood pressure. And we have secondary high blood pressure, which we know why you have it. Maybe you were born with some congenital anomaly of the heart. Maybe you were born with some kidney thing, or maybe you developed some kidney problem, and now you have this high blood pressure. So we know, and the doctors will try to address that cause, that specific cause. However, the vast majority of individuals, they have but the primary high blood pressure, meaning we do not know the reason for the high blood pressure. We simply have several risk factors that we know that predispose you to getting the high blood pressure. So there's no one reason, but there are so many risk factors. That's why we have to talk about the risk factors and also how we can mitigate these risk factors. Okay. So what are the risk factors for high blood pressure? Again, age. The number 1 risk factor is age, advancing age. Can we stop our age? No. As I always say, the only way to stop your age is to die, right? And good luck with that. If we want to live longer, we want to live older. Yeah, so that it's a good thing. Old people are wise people. And I'm hoping all of us here are wise and we are trying to be wiser, right? Then the next thing is obesity. Obesity is even worse when combined with age. So a young obese person is better than an older obese person because you have now two things against you. What else? Family history. If your first degree relative has high blood pressure, you also now have a higher chance of having high blood pressure. Who is considered your first degree relative? That would be your dad, your mom, your brother, your sister. Anything else, such as your uncle, your aunt, your cousin, those will be considered your second degree relative. They also are important, but not as causative as that first degree relative. Okay, so that is part of it. Then we come now to Black race. In this symposium, most of us here come from Africa, meaning most of us here are Blacks. So this is very, very important. It hits home to us specifically. The Black race, high blood pressure is more common in the Black race. It tends to be more severe, and also end organ damage is even more. Okay, so if you are Black, your chances of blood pressure is common. It comes at an earlier age. It tends to be more severe, and it gives higher end organ damage, meaning it will destroy the heart, the kidney, the liver, the brain, whatever. So for particularly, I'm so grateful for Emerald ladies for choosing high blood pressure today for this symposium, because it is really, really that important. Okay. Okay. Then we have diet, right? If you eat the wrong diet that is high in salt will increase your blood pressure. Conversely, diet that is low in salt actually decreases blood pressure. So if you eat more than 3 grams of salt per day in your diet, you will have a high risk of having high blood pressure. If you eat low sugar, low salt, low risk. Excess alcohol consumption is also predisposes you towards high blood pressure. And it has been shown that moderate alcohol consumption actually decreases blood pressure. Okay. So again, certain things are beyond our control. So the things that we can control, lifestyle modification, we should control them. I put a slide in about personal risk factors, and it's just like, it's not really a joke, but truly these things happen. For me, I am truly a soccer fan, and the Indomitable Lions of Cameroon, or even all African teams during YORKK have almost given me heart attack. So if I did not control my personal lifestyle modification, one of these teams would kill me. Okay. So that is okay. Yeah. Okay. And then we have our typical food, and what I just put some like some typical Nigerian diet, just to show you that we have the right food. We actually have the right food. Our gari, the okra, you call it eba, they are the right food. Everything is right if we consume it in the right proportion. Everything is right. Remember this. Too many times I hear, oh, palm oil is bad. No, certain things we cook only with palm oil. It is the quantity and the amount of times we eat those things a week that matters. The quantity. The body needs saturated fat, it needs unsaturated fat. It needs lipids. Cholesterol should be a certain level, but basic cholesterol is still needed. So everything we eat, don't think you have to go eat some sanitized type of food, because then it's not sustainable. You can eat the things you like, but the right proportion, and we will get to that. Okay. Okay, so now what are the common causes, the secondary causes of high blood pressure? We just spoke about most high blood pressure is primary, so the risk factors are important. However, there are some secondary causes, and I just put a few common ones that we should keep in mind. Keep in mind, oral contraceptives for the females who are of childbearing age. Just keep in mind that when you're on oral contraceptives, you also may want to see your doctor just once every 6 months or once a year, as the case may be, just to do your vitals, because that doesn't mean you should not be on it, but just put it at the back of your mind that it could be a cause of high blood pressure. Simple things like NSAIDs, that would be your ibuprofen, your Motrin, Tylenol, paracetamol back home. These things, we take them because we have pain, waist pain, I fell, I hit this part, I have headache. But if you overdo it, just keep in mind at the back of mind that it could be a cause of high blood pressure. It could also be a cause of gastritis and gastric ulcer. But in this talk, blood pressure, it could be a cause. So many common things that could be a cause of high blood pressure, and we would not know if we did not check. Okay, so now we move on to the signs and the symptoms of high blood pressure. Why is high blood pressure so important? It is so important because it is the silent killer. The reason we say silent killer is because it has no even one specific sign or symptom that is clearly just for blood pressure. It is all and it is nothing. How do we distinguish? So I'll just list a couple of them, and you see it's severe headache, especially early morning headache. When did we ever have headache and we decided, oh my God, I have high blood pressure? No, you just say you have headache, you are tired. You take Tylenol, you take paracetamol for it, right? Nosebleed, another name is epistaxis, or shortness of breath, breathlessness, you walk a few steps and, you catch your breath, you are so tired, you may want to sit down to rest. Difficulty in breathing, right? Tinnitus, that would be ear ringing. You feel like there's something ringing inside your ear. Change in sleep pattern, meaning you are sleeping too much or you have insomnia. All this will cause high blood pressure. Excess sweating, another name will be diaphoresis, will also be a cause of high blood pressure, right? Will be a sign and symptom of blood pressure. There are so many of them. The usual one are the chest pain, the irregular heartbeat, and you feel like your heart is racing, palpitation is beating, it's gonna come out of your chest. There's blood in your urine, or the least thing you do, you are so tired. You're so tired, or you get even confusion. All those are signs and symptoms of blood pressure. But the problem with them is that they are also signs and symptoms of a myriad of other things. So how am I gonna say no, this one is because it's blood? Not even your doctor will tell you, oh, this specific headache is because of pressure. The headache yesterday was because you were working under the sun. No. So when we put these things together, then we see now how if we mitigate certain things and mitigate them, then we can bring our pressure down, okay? Or keep it down for those who have the pressure down. Complications, okay. So now, why is blood pressure important? It's important because, remember I said end organ damage, right? It causes complications if your blood pressure is too high and high for too long without you doing anything to address it. You can have enlarged heart, you can have heart failure, it can cause stroke, that means the brain, right? It will cause stroke, all sorts of heart diseases, of kidney disease. High blood pressure is after diabetes, is the number 2 cause of end-stage renal disease in the United States. And I know Lolo Ada, who is a nurse in dialysis, can testify to that, all her patients, their pressure and their diabetes, right? Okay, but for complications, just give me 1 minute. I want to explain just a little bit about enlarged heart and heart failure. So our body, right? When we exercise, we go to the gym, we do exercise, all the muscles of our body, our arm, our legs, the stomach, they get taut, they get firm, they get strong, we look good. These outside muscles are called skeletal muscles, and they love exercise. They love to look good, to look hard, to look big. inside our body, the heart that contracts is also a muscle. It is not skeletal muscle. It is smooth muscle. When the pressure in the artery is that high, the heart now has to pump against a high pressure. So the heart works harder. It might pump faster, it might pump harder. What happens to the heart? It's also a muscle, right? It grows bigger. But the muscle inside, those muscles inside are called smooth muscles. They do not like to get bigger. They do not want that. They want to stay their normal size, and they just want to pump blood easily into arteries, then relax enough to receive blood during diastole. So once they are working that hard, it grows bigger. Then now you have heart failure. You get what we call, it starts with the ventricles. Heart is divided into several chambers. You have left ventricular hypertrophy. Hypertrophy simply means it got bigger, and then heart failure. The heart works, it can no longer work hard. And when that happens, the least thing you do, the least energy you accept, you are so tired, you are so fatigued, right? And we do not want that. When those things happen, they are irreversible. The heart doesn't get back smaller. Okay, it's like you grew bigger and you try to enter the same size 8 pants. It's not gonna happen, right? The outside muscle, you lose weight. For the heart, it doesn't work like that. So I just wanted to take a little bit of time to explain that, to show you that you should not wait, because certain things, certain end organ damages are not that reversible. So let's not even get to that level. Okay. So those are the complications I wanted to talk about. Now we've scared everybody about blood pressure. What should we do about it? We can do all those risk factor things, mitigate every single one of them so that we can fix it and our pressure will not go up, or if it is up, it will come down. And this is lifestyle modification, right? So we treat blood pressure. You have the pharmacologic treatment and you have lifestyle modification. Okay, so for lifestyle modification, what do we do? That's your exercise, right? You have so many things. You have low salt diet. Did I skip anything? Sorry. Okay, you have your low salt diet, and that will be, as we said, salt of more than 3 grams a day is too much. So please, low salt diet. In the past, when I was growing up in Cameroon, when people had high blood pressure, they stopped eating salt. Please, if you do that for a few people, they can sustain that. Most people cannot, because food doesn't taste anymore. Just put moderate sugar, salt in your diet. Do not stop salt. Moderate, low salt diet, okay? And then potassium. Potassium is an excellent supplement, excellent. However, if you have kidney problem, or if you are on a medication that tends to raise potassium, then it is an absolute contraindication. That's why we talk to our doctors before we take any form of supplement. We talk to the doctor. Weight loss is huge. Blood pressure decreases by 0.5 to 2 millimeters of mercury for every 1 kilogram of weight lost. So just by itself, you're losing the blood pressure. You drop it just by weight loss, okay? Okay, diet, DASH diet. What is DASH diet? Dietary approaches to stop hypertension. Remember, DASH, dietary approaches to stop hypertension. DASH diet is diet that is rich in certain things and poor in other things, right? So what is it rich on? Fruits, vegetables, and low fat. All these contribute to give you high potassium, high calcium, proteins, all the nutrients that you need. So if you use that diet, so they did, if you put a typical American diet and a typical DASH diet, right? They did that study. Both diets had same number of calories, the same number of calories, right? And both diets had the same amount of sodium. the salt that we say don't eat, same calories, same sodium. Yet the DASH diet decreased blood pressure by 6 millimeters, the upper number, the systolic, and 4 millimeters of mercury, that lower number. But it was the same number of calories. So just be mindful of the proportion of what you eat. So you will see on the next slide, you will see now, I put a DASH diet. This table is not complicated. What I want you to take home from this table, this is based on 2,000 calories, right? What I just want you to take home is the proportion of the food. When you look at it, you eat whatever you want, the type of fruits that you want, the type of veggies, but you see the proportion, how many servings per day. That's all I want you to take home from that, okay? And then exercise. Exercise is very important. When you exercise, even without losing weight, you still decrease your blood pressure. That is huge. It means you don't have to do vigorous exercise. Not everybody has the stamina for vigorous exercise. Just by you walking and coming back home, maybe you did not lose weight yet, you still decrease your blood pressure. If you lose weight, you further decrease your blood pressure. So we want you to exercise 3 to 4 times a week, 40 minutes each time. Just go for a walk. Do whatever you want. For those who go to gym by all means. If you cannot, whatever you can do at home, you do it. Kids at home, you don't have anybody to take care of kids at home. Do it at home. Whatever you can do, you do. 40 minutes each time, 3 to 4 times a day, okay? Alcohol consumption. Again, we say moderate alcohol actually decreases your pressure. The reason we hardly say this to patients is because sometimes there's something called selective hearing. Moderate alcohol, you go and you tumble 3 bottles and you call that moderate. No. Moderate alcohol is 2 servings for males and just 1 for female. Remember, males tend to do stronger things than us. Their metabolism is faster than ours. It tends to, generally speaking. Because of that, they have to take 2 servings for females, just 1, okay? And then medical management. Medical management will be between you and your doctor. And no matter what I want you to take home from this is there's no one size fits all. You could go and be diagnosed with blood pressure, high blood pressure, and your doctor says diet and exercise, lifestyle modification. For another person, it might be take just 1 medication. For a third person, it might be take 3 medications. There's no one size fits all. You don't know the reason why whoever is on 3 meds and whoever is on 1 med. I say that because I have patients who come and say, change my medication, give me my sister's medication. That one is decreasing the pressure better. So talk with your doctor. Home remedies. When you bring any remedy, it doesn't matter what remedy you are taking for whatever reason, don't take it alone. Go to your doctor. I'll bet you 90% of the time we will not even know what remedy you are taking, but we can all Google it. I call Google my uncle. They answer everything. You go to Google, you check with your doctor, and your doctor will tell you, oh, sure, no, you can't take this because it has a lot of potassium. And even though potassium is advisable for people with blood pressure, you specifically, you have chronic kidney stage 3. So for you, I cannot allow you to eat this, okay? So anything you do, you talk with your doctor all the time, okay? So in summary, if you take anything home from this, normal blood pressure is 120/80 or below. Anything above that, talk to your doctor. Talk to your doctor. DASH diet high in fibers, decreases blood pressure independent of all other things. I don't need to tell people to stop smoking or not to do cocaine. I think we all know that. Okay. So again, the colors, if you see the colors of my presentation, they are all in the Nigerian flag. So this was in honor of the Nigerian flag. And I wanted to thank you. I love the theme, your health, your wisdom, your treasure. I hope you took something home from this. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Kwankam. We appreciate you. I just want to ask, does anybody has any question to ask, or do we have any questions already sent?
This is Njoko. I'm just asking, how do we measure the gram in salt when we're adding salt to food? Can you give us an estimate of how the measurement in gram is, please? Thank you.
Yes, okay. Good question. When I was doing this research, I personally also, I was saying, 3 grams. So how do I measure these 3 grams? Then I actually saw a little, it was like a plastic measurement. You know how we have that in clinic. We usually give it to our patients who have high blood pressure or who have diabetes. There are some setting servings. It's really a little thing. It actually is like a spoon, but it tells you, like baby cup measurement, but this one is for food, and you can buy it from places like Targets and also Bed Bath and Beyond. It's a little spoon, and you can use that to put in the food you are cooking. Again, you have to just guesstimate, right? Because when I say 3 grams, I don't think any of us here cook just for ourselves. We cook for the whole house, right? So if you try that in just what you are eating and get a taste of it, then you will know how much to put for the whole house, right? And it will be a little bit less salt than we are used to eating, but it will still be tasty. And it is also an acquired taste. So trust me, sometimes we eat too much. And one other thing about salt is put less of the Maggi, the adobo and the Maggi, all those things. They are so salty. That's why Chinese food is so tasty with a lot of salt. Okay, so if you put less of the Maggi and that extra aroma Maggi, if you can do away with that, you'll be eating less salt. Okay. I hope I answered.
Hello. Great question and great answer as well. Any other question from the audience, please? So I'm going to go ahead and ask you this question, Dr. Kwankam. We talk about high blood pressure and cholesterol. They usually go hand in hand sometimes. Yes. So what is the relationship between high cholesterol and high blood pressure?
Yes. Oh, thank you. Excellent question. So cholesterol, the body needs cholesterol. But again, as I was saying, is the first thing, moderation, right? And second thing, the type of cholesterol. So when we eat, if I say scientifically, we have the good cholesterol and the bad cholesterol. Usually you hear about LDL, which is bad cholesterol. You hear about HDL, which is good cholesterol. So the reason we have to be mindful of cholesterol is because this can form plaques in those arteries. Remember, we said blood pressure, it's the pressure of the arteries, right? Even though we measure it on the arm, upper arm, the brachial artery, it could be measured anywhere. You can measure on your ankle, you can measure on your thigh. Sometimes we even have to do that also for other reasons. So the arteries, when they form this, cholesterol can form all these plaques in your arteries. And when it forms those plaques, the pressure will be high. The arteries are stiff. Then the heart now still has difficulty pumping blood through those vessels. So that is why your cholesterol has to be down at all times. And that is why it helps with that. And when you have that is also the reason why we take things like aspirin to make the blood a little bit fluid, and to help with, with not depositing all this extra cholesterol on your arteries. That is the reason for cholesterol.
I'm going to go ahead and give you the second question, and that may be my last one. We have the systolic and diastolic. If you can just explain to the audience, as a nurse, I understand that diastolic is usually, when it's high, is of more concern to us in the medical profession. Could you explain to us why?
Okay, so for blood pressure, again, we said we have two numbers, right? The upper number, we call it the systolic blood pressure. The lower number, we call it the diastolic blood pressure. So that upper number, as the heart pumps, the heart is a muscle. We said it's a huge, smooth muscle. As it pumps and it goes up, for the person who is registering with the auscultatory device, that first sound, boom, that you hear, we call it the systolic blood pressure. So after it pumps the blood, the heart now wants to relax. As it is relaxing, it is receiving blood from all the organs back into the heart. So that pressure is called the diastolic pressure. So we want both pressures to be fine. The diastolic pressure tends to be high also when the heart has become bigger, right? So if we keep our blood pressure too high for too long and the heart pumps is struggling to pump blood and it gets so thick, right? So when it is thick, it's like a tube, like our kitchen faucet. If things are clogged there and it is blocked, it cannot just easily flow. So same thing with the heart. If blood doesn't flow into the heart, the diastolic pressure, it becomes a problem and it can cause heart failure, right? So what happens in heart failure, for example, the heart is pumping, it's not going forward, and then during relaxation, it's also not entering, if that is the problem. Then it goes backwards, right? Then all the organs, they suffer. The kidney, it stays in your organs, they suffer. What happens to your legs? All your legs are swollen, and you have what we call in science edema, meaning both legs, you see your legs so swollen that if you press your finger into your leg, it goes so deep that you could even put water to stand in it. It means the kidneys are, you're having now end organ damage of the kidneys or whatever organ. So the heart just wants to be smooth and pump smoothly and receive blood nicely with no headache. Yeah. And we should help the heart to do that.
Thank you very much, Dr. Kwankam, and thank you for the presentation, your explanations. We appreciate you. Again, remember when you're gonna go to Qatar that you're gonna let me know. And again, ladies, Emerald ladies standing on the rock, this is the end of our presentation for hypertension. I am now going to hand you over to Ms. Akobundu. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Maureen. Thank you. What an awesome presentation. I mean, this is what this seminar or symposium is all about, wisdom. This is the act of being wise. With the knowledge we've received today, we have to make lifestyle changes. We have to help ourselves, we have to help our family, we have to help the society at large. Short walks, changing your diet. I mean, these things will actually improve your health. Thank you, Dr. Maureen. I appreciate this presentation. Thank you so much. Yeah. So having said that, we're going to be having a short video showcasing the charity work done by this organization. And after that, we'll be having a presentation on diabetes. So right now, we'll be showing the short video on our charitable works, both here in the United States and in Nigeria. Thank you. Wow, yeah. So those are some of the charitable works Emerald Ladies did both here in the United States of America and in Nigeria. We call on you if you want to join us. We are here for a very good cause. If you want to donate to our cause, if you look at the bottom of the screen, you can see where you can make your donation. And we're here for actually a very good cause. We care for battered and abused women. Having said that, I'm going to call on Ms. Jacinta Obi to actually introduce our second speaker. Ms. Jacinta Obi, I yield to you.
Yeah, good evening all.
Good evening.
I am very delighted to introduce this second speaker. The second speaker is a woman of integrity. She is a virtuous woman. She is all-round efficient. The person I'm going to introduce today is no other person than Dr. Ednah Madu. Dr. Ednah Madu currently works at Adelphi University as assistant professor in the School of Nursing or College of Nursing at Adelphi University. She teaches the nursing students. She also teaches her community. Dr. Ednah Madu is a practicing New York State Board certified family nurse practitioner since 2006. And the current vice president of Nigerian Nurses Association in New York, popularly known as NAUSA. Dr. Madu's passion to improve the health of the community, to improve the health of people, led her to be the founding person at Mount Olivet Gospel Church. And the area she is improving on is on health of the communities. So she is the founder of Mount Olivet Gospel Church Health Ministry, and this has been on since 2008. And through that ministry, she has organized various health fairs, of which Nigerian Nurses Association have been participating. She also has organized various presentations on health screening, and as a result, she has empowered her community. Dr. Madu did her nursing education back from Nigeria. You know, when you get any degree in Nigeria, it is the standard. So she got her first degree in nursing, where she did nursing midwifery in Nigeria, West Africa. She migrated to New York with her family in 1991 to come and work. Of course, all of us here, that's why we're here, working. Being a virtuous woman, a family woman, a mother, a wife, a sister, an aunt, friend, that did not prevent her from furthering her education. She cherished education so much. So she went further and obtained her nursing degree. She went further to obtain nursing degree, which not for the Nigerian one. This one is for American one, because when you go to Nigeria, when you go to school in Nigeria, come over here, they have to make you go through all these things. But for Dr. Ednah, that is nothing for her. That's what she wanted. She wanted to further her education. So being a midwife in Nigeria, she came here in 1991 and furthered her education and obtained a Bachelor of Science degree in nursing. Not only that she obtained this Bachelor of Science degree, she obtained it with a good honor, cum laude. And this is at York University When somebody goes to school and obtains cum laude, you know what that means. Other than that, she didn't say, oh, I have gotten a degree in nursing, but a master's, I have gotten a bachelor's degree, so let me relax. So she didn't relax. She went further and she got a master's degree in nursing at New York University again. And what did she get this time around? Magna cum laude. We are talking about cum laude. Now she got this one with magna cum laude. I know those of us that went to school, in order for you to even make it to nursing school is very hard. And for you to make it with this honors, cum laude, magna cum laude, and this happened at Sunny University, Sunny Downstate University, New York, where she got the Master's of Science. And after getting the Master of Science in Nursing with magna cum laude, she didn't stop there. She went further and got PhD at Adelphi University, where she currently works as assistant professor in the School of Public Health and Nursing. So this is a woman who values education. So while she was doing her master's, her doctorate program, she picked research interest on cardiovascular health disparities. And our sister has spoken about cardiovascular diseases. Dr. Ednah actually did the research on this. So she did the research on cardiovascular health disparities and community health, particularly among the Black persons, because it's always more on the Black. So what motivated her to do this? Because of the disproportionality or disproportionate higher prevalence of hypertension-related cardiovascular complications between Black African Americans and other races. So her dissertation investigated the relatively most important factors of treatment, non-adherence, using a community sample of Black adults in New York diagnosed with hypertension. She replicated this research again, or this study. She did the same thing again in Nigeria, West Africa, where she came from, meaning that she wants the people back home also to benefit from her research. So Dr. Madu's research investigated the association between perceived stress and treatment adherence during this COVID-19 pandemic. And this is among Black persons diagnosed with hypertension and or diabetes mellitus. She is currently conducting her NIH grant-funded research, which is examining the psychosocial determinants of hypertension diagnosis, treatment, and control among self-identified Black African immigrants. She disseminated some of her work through conferences, peer-reviewed journals, and what we are doing today as well. She attributes her success to the grace of God. She's a woman of God too. As I said earlier, she founded the health ministry at Mount Olivet. So she attributes her success to the grace of God and the unwavering support of her loving family. So please allow me to introduce Dr. Ednah, a woman of integrity.
Thank you, Sister Jacinta Obi, for that humbling introduction. And all I have to say is all glory be to God, because without him, I can do nothing. And I also want to thank Emerald Ladies for this wonderful outreach that is empowering our community and everyone that made time to come. God bless you all. Thank you, Dr. Maureen, for such a wonderful presentation you made. Brought it down to earth to our people. God bless you. And now I'm going to talk about diabetes mellitus. You can say that they are brothers and sisters as far as chronic condition is concerned. However, I like to say that the diabetes could be called a mother, because wherever a mother is, the children are there. So whoever has diabetes, we want to look for hypertension to make sure that it's controlled. Otherwise, you will have a double tragedy for the heart. So that being said, time is of essence. So I will go straight to the point so that we can finish. Diabetes mellitus. What do we want to learn today for objectives for this course? Many of us here are healthcare professionals. Many have family members that have diabetes one way or the other. By the end of this presentation, we want to overview what diabetes really is and how do we classify it. We want to talk about the background of the disease and the statistics. How much? How many people? What's the impact? We'll talk about the normal physiology. What happens when we eat starchy food or sugar food normally that doesn't cause diabetes? And then we will look at what goes wrong that makes it become diabetes. That some people will eat a plate of rice and have a problem, and the other eat it and they don't have diabetes. We will talk about what puts us at risk. What are the risk factors for having diabetes? Then we will talk about how is it even diagnosed. We will move on to talk about what if this sugar is not controlled, this sugar problem, what complications can come out of it? And then what are the strategies of managing it for those that have the problem? Last not the least, we will talk about what are those important things we should be monitoring in an ongoing basis when people have diabetes. Moving on then, the first objective, what is diabetes? Remember this word, metabolic. That's why sometimes they send people that have too much problem with sugar to the endocrinologist. It's a metabolic disorder. What is it characterized of? There is chronic hyperglycemia, which means high sugar. Remember, it could go from many ways. It could be from immune system, autoimmune, the type 1, we will get to it later, or the type 2 one, which is more of insulin resistance, or from gestational when people are pregnant, or from other factors like infection, medications, and things. In the past, it used to be classified as insulin dependent, non-insulin dependent, but the newer classification we base on now is 4 systems for those of us in school. And the classification, 4 different types now is classified. One, that type 1 I talked about, type 2, and then the gestational, which is the pregnancy diabetes, and then the other 4th one, they group it under other specific types. I don't want to leave out the pre-diabetes because this is a borderline problem that majority of people have. This is, we are not even called diabetic yet, or people with diabetes, but it is in the borderline that it can cause trouble. You might say, oh, it's pre-diabetes, I'm not diabetic yet, but it has problem for the heart, and it has problem for you developing the diabetes if it's not controlled. Moving on to say, how do we classify it? We say type 1, autoimmune, the one that the pancreas doesn't even make the insulin at all, so they have to be taking insulin all the time. Younger people, sometimes from childbirth is there. Type 2, think about it as insulin resistance. In this type 2, that pancreatic cell is destroyed because of the insulin resistance. And there are people that are more prone to having this, overweight, as we're getting older. I picked up a lot from even what Dr. Maureen said that is similar to what I'm going to say. That's why they are brothers and sisters. Overweight, the family has a history of it. But the thing is that younger people are beginning to have the diabetes now, type 2. And then gestational pregnancy can be another cause of diabetes. These are people that didn't have it before they got pregnant, but in the 2nd or 3rd trimester, they may start having it. It's on the rise. But later, they might transition into real diabetes. And then that fourth one, we talked about a specific type. I don't know if you've heard about people that were on steroids or had infection, or people that had surgery, and by the time they got out of the hospital, they now have diabetes. That's under that specific type. Or people that have pancreatitis, inflammation of that pancreas that makes insulin, and then it can lead them to diabetes. Moving on to what the difference between insulin, diabetes, and diabetes mellitus and diabetes insipidus. When I was in school, I was like, better both diabetes. What's the difference? One is the sugar. They are both diabetes, but are different. Think about the cause. We said that the other one was metabolic, right? The sugar one, metabolic problem, but high sugar in the blood. But the insipidus is when people are increasingly thirsty. They peeing a lot, urinating a lot of urine. And then somebody might say, but I think I have diabetes. I'm drinking a lot. I'm urinating a lot. But then when you do the blood test, you're going to differentiate. So that one for the diabetes insipidus is really the brain that is a deficiency in the pituitary hormone in the brain, vasopressin. And the urine, the target organ is the kidney. And then the stark difference is that somebody with diabetes mellitus, you check their urine, there is sugar in it. But the one with the dilute urine that is insipidus, there is no sugar in it. That's the difference. The brain, the pancreas. Moving along with the background. It's a lot of background we're going to talk about in diabetes. It has a lot of global and national impact. Look at globally, all right? There's a lot of diabetes prevalence. And a lot of people die from the diabetes. And it costs a lot of money, socially, financially. Globally, in the whole world, it causes a lot of problems. Look at in 2017, about 451 million people worldwide have diabetes. That is the type 2. Type 2 will make 90% of that. And then in 2045, it's already estimated that 693 million will have diabetes. It is increasing in every country. But look at our poor African continent. 80% of these diseases are people living in the low and middle income countries. And you say, oh, when I go home, I see many people are having diabetes now. They're not even overweight. It's a lot in the low income. What else do we eat? Our rice and this. We may not even have vegetables to complement. But I don't know. What is going on with the pancreas there? All right. So now, the worst thing is, though, in our African continent, we don't have enough data. We don't have enough evidence to base our treatment on. That's why it's important to do research. If I call you upon, let's go do it. If we don't have enough data, we don't know how to, help our people. Moving along, what about the United States? In the US itself is the 7th leading cause of death. However, even though it's the 7th leading cause of death, it is the leading cause of trouble, health problems. We have microvascular and macrovascular. We will talk about it. I have a table for that, so we will understand. This causes people to be sick. The kidney, the eye, the nerves, and the macro is the heart, the cerebral vascular, and the legs, vascular system. It is the most common form of disease that affects 90% of 95%, that's the type 2 one. Moving along to finish it off with the background and statistics, look at that. Half of people about that have diabetes don't even know they have it. So most people that are, the prevalence, it continues to quadruple, triple. How many people that have it? This obesity we are talking about, look at COVID-19. Everybody was in the house, we're not doing exercise, and we're all getting weight, teaching in the Zoom and things like that. That puts us at risk. Another cause is longevity. People are living longer. And so, before you know it, we catch it up. About 30 million US adults are diagnosed, and most of them are not even diagnosed. But look at how many people have pre-diabetes, the borderline, the troublemaker, that we think we are okay. We don't have it, but we're in trouble. 84 million. That's 34% of US adults. So it causes death. when they looked at the death certificates of people that died in 2015, look at how many people that the death certificate said had some kind of underlying diabetes or something that has to do with diabetes. Either something that contributed to the death, diabetes was part of it, or diabetes caused it in total. How much does it cost the US? By 2018, look at how many billions that total cost of diagnosed diabetes. In direct medical costs, 237 billion. In reduced productivity, that's those that don't go to work because they have to go to the doctor, they have to do this, or their healthcare providers, 90 billion. This is 2.3 times higher of what is spent if the people didn't have diabetes. What about our race? Where do we fall in? We're always in it. When I do health ministry in my church, one of the pastors will be like, where is it that we don't call Black people? We are in everything. Yes, we are in everything, including hypertension, including diabetes. Here, okay, let's go to the fourth one. We are non-Hispanics, Blacks, majority of us here. We are about 12.7% that are diagnosed by race. I know they don't total up to 100%, but this is when they specifically looked at those races and ethnicity. And then there are in between people that have multiple races. The highest people are the American Indians, and the pastor in my church said, thank God, one thing that Black people are not the highest in. So let's just understand what is going on with eating food or eating starchy food that doesn't lead to diabetes, and then what went wrong, the pathophysiology. Let's begin with how it should be happening when we eat food when everything is working well. So we eat this plate of rice or whatever food we eat, and then it's broken down, it goes into the bloodstream as blood sugar, right? And then it will signal the pancreas, say, go, make up some insulin, make up some insulin. Insulin jumps in and helps the sugar. You know what the insulin does? It drives it into the body cells so that they will use it for your energy. Then that same insulin will signal the liver, and it will tell the liver, store some of this, back it up, so that when we need it, I know they might be sleeping in the night and they need some sugar, we'll store it up in the liver. And then that blood sugar, as it enters the cell, then the sugar level in the blood will go down. And then, because it has gone down, it told the insulin go down also. It does. So then, when the insulin level goes down so much, it will tell the liver, like you're sleeping in the night or you're fasting or something like that. Then it will tell the liver, remember I told you to store some sugar? Now it's time to bring it because they're fasting or they're sleeping or they're not eating. That's the way it should happen. But something goes wrong that makes it become diabetes. What is that? Let's understand the sugar problem now. Now you ate, I ate, and there's too much sugar in the blood. Then the pancreas says, remember it signals the pancreas to make some insulin. And then the pancreas pumps more insulin to get the blood into the cells. When it pumps out more insulin to get the blood sugar into the cells. After a while, the cells is like, you're eating too much sugar here. Oh, I'm having a lot of sugar here. And it keeps responding to all that insulin. After a while, the cells will be like, listen, I had enough. I'm resistant now. That's insulin resistance. That's what's happening. Then the pancreas will continue to make sure that it makes the cells, to respond to that insulin. Eventually, the pancreas will say, listen, I'm tired now. I can't keep up with you. Too much sugar in the system. And it will become, now when you eat it, because it's not going, the sugar in the blood will continue to be high. Now, these are some of those organs I mentioned now. Look at the pancreas, and I'll show you another diagram with them. You have the pancreas, we said, makes the insulin. You have the liver that stores it. You have the muscle that takes it up, the cells. You have the gastrointestinal that absorbs, absorbs the glucose, then sugar goes high. Pancreas, if it's not working well, sugar goes there. in liver, increase glucose production, it makes it to be high. And the muscle decrease insulin stimulated uptake. When the muscles are not taking it up, then the sugar backs up. All these will make it go high. But I want to show you another interesting diagram that I like. Look at this one. This diagram, you can divide it into two. The top one says normal glucose, normal use of glucose. The bottom one says type 2 diabetes. In the top one, up there in the blood vessels, you will see that the insulin will enter into that bloodstream as much as the sugar enters the bloodstream. They tie together and go in, and insulin leaves the bloodstream, binds to the cell, right? When it goes, it signals it. So what the cells do, they will take up, in response to that, they will take up that glucose, then the cells will use it for energy. That's the normal way that we mentioned. But the bottom one, look at when the insulin is not even able to go and bind to the cells because of that insulin resistance, and the glucose cannot even enter the cell because it doesn't respond to it. You know what happens? Right there in the blood, where it should have, left and went into the cells, it backs up into the cell and into the blood vessel, so there will be high level of glucose. That blood, because the cell didn't take it, because it didn't respond to the insulin, it goes back into the blood cell. That's what is happening there. These are those organs that are involved in the diabetes. Hyperglycemia in the middle means high sugar. So the liver, gluconeogenesis means they're making the glucose. Brain, remember how people have diabetes, are very hungry, they eat all the time? Brain is involved. Muscle is not taking out the glucose, sugar goes high. There's fat. Oh, the reason why I brought this diagram is when I start talking about the medicines we take for diabetes, you will see some of them work on the muscle, some of them work on the liver, some of them work on the fat, and some of them for the insulin goes straight to give it to you like the pancreas. And the kidneys are all involved. That is why we always give something to protect the kidneys. Now, what puts us at risk? Dr. Maureen talked about risk factors for developing hypertension. Same thing, similar. Risk factor. These are the things you should be discussing with your doctor, your nurse practitioner, your PA when you go to the hospital. Am I at risk? At least we can now spread the news today. The risk is, if my family member with diabetes, I'm at risk. If you have a high risk race, like Black people like us, we're at risk. African American, Pacific, Latino. If we have a history of cardiac disease, heart disease, we're at risk. If we have high blood pressure, we're at risk. If we have high cholesterol, especially that cholesterol, the healthy cholesterol that is low, we're at risk. Triglyceride, the fatty part, we're at risk. So when they measure our cholesterol, they say, what's my triglyceride? If it's more than 250, at risk. This classification is written by Standards of Medical Care in Diabetes in 2019. It's not even too far away. Other clinical conditions, if we are not moving, we are ladies, emerald ladies, women with polycystic ovary syndrome. We're at risk. Obesity, we're at risk, because then severe obesity will associate with that insulin resistance. And who else is at risk? If we have pre-diabetes. Women that are diagnosed with diabetes when they were pregnant. So for all of that patients, we begin at age 45. We keep testing every 3 years to make sure if it has changed from pre-diabetes or not. Let's move on, because we're going to finish pretty soon. As long as we understand what is wrong, we will understand why we need to take medicine if we need it, or why we need to do the lifestyle modification. So how are we diagnosing it? Two things. Problem will be diagnosed by the signs and symptoms you present and by the numbers from the blood test. All right? So now, signs and symptoms. The numbers from the blood test, remember this number, 126. I see my patients as a nurse practitioner, and they say, I did primary care for 15 years, and they'll be like, but it's only 128. I say, I'm sorry, we have guidelines. and it says if it's 126 or more, you already have diabetes. Fasting, remember. A1C 6.5, and somebody will say, but some guidelines say 7.0. We will come to that. That's for control. But if you have the first blood test fasting, A1C is not even by fasting, and it's 6.5. You have diabetes. I tell my patients, I say, I don't have to put your medicine now if we can all agree on where to go about it. But you already classified that. I have to put it as a diagnosis. You have diabetes, 6.5. Postprandial, after we eat, we expect about 2 hours after, we expect the sugar to be higher. Then up to 180 is okay. But after 180, 2 hours already since you ate, don't say it's because I ate rice and banana and all that. You're already diabetic. Remember that. So we say two things, by signs and symptoms and by blood tests, right? So what are those signs and symptoms? Remember, increased thirst and frequent urination is also classic of the diabetes insipidus. That's where we will now go to check the blood test and say, what is the difference? Weight loss, first thing that patients come to tell me, they may say, I've been losing weight. I've been urinating a lot. Maybe my eyes are not working the way it used to. I'm a little irritable. My hands, I see numbness. Okay, I see a lot of infections like vaginal yeast infections, wounds that will not heal. Sometimes I'm so tired. All those, then you dig to do the blood test. And here is a blood test. In the blood test, I want you to remember the green number. Green is always good. Thank you, Dr. Maureen. You had green and white for your PowerPoint. I have green and white for respecting our Nigeria too, right? Not that the other ones won't be green and white. Hallelujah. Yes. So here, look at the number. Thank you. You see that 126 I told you before? That's where the red begins to show. That's the danger zone. That's diabetes. The pre-diabetes, if you did fasting sugar and it's anywhere between 100 and 126, yes, I will not put in the diagnosis that you have diabetes, but you're in danger. And then green is normal. And then the low, anything less than 70, we begin to question too. Is there a problem with insulin? Now let's talk. We said one of the objectives is the complications, right? When I talk to my patients, I give them that diagnosis and I start talking about treatment. I tell them, please, let's take it serious. Diabetes is a disease that kills everything in the body, right? It's not just blood pressure that is just your heart and all that, which is bad in itself, but I bring up a diagram I show my patients. And I say, diabetes is the one that kills the eye, kills the kidney, kills the nerves, kills the brain, kills the heart, kills your extremities. Once I explain it to them, they say, what do you mean? And I say, look at your eyes. The high sugar in the blood will get to the point that it gets to your blood vessels, including the blood pressure. And then it can develop cataract and, all those problems, glaucoma. It goes to the kidneys. That's why we protect the kidney of people with diabetes. It damages the small blood vessel. That's micro. The one on I think it's going to be on your right, is the micro. The small vessels in the eye, the small vessels in the kidney, the small vessels in the nerves will be affected by high sugar. The macro is the one that Dr. Maureen told us, the heart, the high blood pressure and the resistance of the coronary artery, the brain, stroke. That is uncontrolled. You see how I highlighted uncontrolled? That means if you have diabetes and you control it, these chances are all the way down. You don't risk it too much. People live 100 in whatever years they need if you control it. And the extremities, the numbness and all that. Now comes to how do we manage diabetes? We know what it is. We know what puts us at risk. We know how we can diagnose it. And we know what it can do if we don't control it. We know what went wrong that caused it to be diabetes. I highlighted management. You see, I didn't write treatment. The reason why I put management is because it's a chronic disease. We manage diabetes. We don't treat it. It would be good if you treat it, but once your A1C goes down to 7%, you're already controlled, and the complications go down the drain. Because it's a complex condition that affects all those organs we mentioned in the last slide, many organs are involved, it affects the quality of life. Can you imagine somebody that is diagnosed and they're always going to the hospital and going to check their sugar every 3 months and all that? The quality of life decreases. However, my people, prevention is better than cure. So let's know our risk so that we can prevent it from happening. In the management of diabetes, I like the question that we asked before. Being pragmatic is the best way to go about it. You see, the black person that eats our Nigerian fufu and our beans and rice is different from the other person that will have a different way of eating. Let's use what we have and manage it, because like Dr. Maureen said, we can actually eat all our food, but eat it in the right proportion. Let's be practical. I told my patient, they said, oh, I cannot stop eating that food. I said, no, I wouldn't like you to tell me to stop eating fufu, but I just have to cut down how much I eat. Be practical. The task force has made recommendation. Please request this from your provider. Tell them, if once they tell you you've been diagnosed with diabetes, say, I want a multidisciplinary approach. Because it's complex and affects too many things, many people will get involved. This nutritionist, the social worker, everybody will get involved. So Dr. Maureen said it again, pharmacologic and non-pharmacologic. It's not all about medicine and insulin. It's non-pharmacologic. But these 4 things are important that the task force recommended. 1, patient education, which we are doing today. Hey, we're doing education. Evaluation of those micro and macro, those organs that we mentioned, whether there is complication already. Again, the 3rd one, treating the disease itself. We have to reduce that sugar. And then the 4th one, we want to minimize the cardiovascular, the effect on the heart and the long-term risk. The non-pharmacological ones is what I heard before in the first presentation, lifestyle modification. We are managing this disease here, so we are modifying our lifestyle by what we eat, by exercising more, by making sure that that sugar goes into the cell, that we use it up, so that we can have to burn it up. When we eat it, go out and take a walk, and we manage our weight. If we reduce our weight, I have actually put patients out of the metformin because they reduced their weight, they came down, and they want to give a try. I'm a pragmatic clinician. I don't force people to do. Once we sign our contract and you do it and your sugar goes down and you're already on metformin, I'll give you a trial for 3 months and then I'll check your A1C again. Some people have stayed off it. Call it a miracle. It's possible. All right. However we do it, but we have to do our part. So what about the drugs? That's where I will finish because I know we have other things to talk about. I will not be able to I will be able to mention different classes of medicines you will be given or your family will be given for diabetes. So let's move to it quickly. Many classes of medicines are available, including injectables. And the reason why I put this diagram before I start mentioning the medication one by one is if you remember when we talked about the pathophysiology or what went wrong and all the organs involved, that is how we put the medicines for diabetes are made. Some of them will work for the liver. That causes a problem. Some of them will work in the pancreas, secretagogues. Some of them will work in the fat that we said that they're also pushing out on the intestines that cause the diabetes. So, and the muscles that we said if they don't uptake it, then the sugar goes back in the blood. That's how the bloods are made. The notorious one, common one, a lot of people take the first one that we take, biagonize, we call them. That's where the metformin falls in. They secrete, I'll call them quickly before I end. Secretagogues, the pancreas, like you heard about branding and you heard about glyburide and diabeta. We talk about the muscle ones. You talk about actose and things like that. You talk about the one for the fat. Let's get to it quickly before we go. This is those biagonides. I talked about liver. This is the first choice. Majority of the people will tell you, your provider will say, go on metformin. If there is no complications or no side effect of taking metformin, please, it's a lifesaver. Very good medicine. I go to Nigeria a lot and I see many people are on metformin and it's good. All right. However, we have to make sure that their kidney function is good. And if they're going to do a test that needs iron, iodine, It's not good. It's contraindicated at that time. It reduces sugar by decreasing the liver. You know, we say liver causes gluconeogenesis, releasing that sugar. It will cause that. And therefore, decreasing that which causes insulin resistance by increasing insulin sensitivity. Sometimes we put those metformin in a combination medicine for Tamet, that's metformin and something else. What about the secretagogues? That's where the pancreas comes in. However, the glyburide and all those secretagogues that cause people to have a lot of low sugar, we are cutting off a little bit on it. Metiglinide, this is the one Maprandin we eat with food. Thiazolidine diones. I remember when I started my job first as a nurse practitioner, the person that was presenting me said, do you know how you remember thiazolidine diones? Celine Dion. She said, never forget Celine Dion and you will never forget thiazolidine diones. This is those actors. What did they do? They reduce insulin resistance in the periphery where the muscle and the fat comes in. This where the action is on fat distribution, actors, Avandia, and all that. And the next one will be, I'm moving rather along because of your time. You will hear newer medications that comfort, like DPP-4 inhibitors. This one increases insulin resistance. All right, they decrease the glucagon levels in that circulation of dependent manner. They degrade the biologic active peptides. That is one of the newer medications that Januvia, sometimes we mix it up with metformin and call it Janumet, Trajenta, and all those. And another new one that comes, they give it as injection. Maybe you hear in the commercial, you hear Trulicity, once a week injection. Those are all newer medication. But this GLP-1 and DPP-4 we talked about, these ones are very expensive. Sometimes insurance companies don't want to pay for it. But can I give you a tip? Tell your provider, I do it for my patients. If it is the only thing my patient needs and they've tried other things, I call the insurance company. I make a case. So let them make a case for you if you need it. And then there are other ones, transporter 2 inhibitors. I don't know if you've heard about Invokana. They reduce renal threshold, they work in the kidney. Bile acid sequestrant, we call this one, they don't even know how it works, but they take it with food. As you're eating, you're taking it with exercise. And then there are other ones, dopamine agonists, like bromocriptine, that work in the brain, in the nerves, in the brain cells, hypothalamus, to decrease the glucose. These are all medication. Dr. Maureen said, your big brother can be that Google. You will begin with the Google. If they give you something, know what it is, we know where it works, and what side effect it might have. So now we end up with the insulins, all right? So the insulins, oh no, I don't want to take insulin. I have a lot of patients that don't want to take insulin. But when I explain, at this point, your sugar A1C has been so high, over 8% for a long time. And we've tried the oral medication, it's not working. It's time to get into insulin. Please don't resist it. My patients, I will bring the insulin, I'll bring the pen, you don't have to draw and all those things, and show them how to do it. They try it and their A1C goes down and they say, why, it wasn't that bad. Insulin will help the sugar to enter the body cells so that it will use it. It will signal the liver to do what it needs to do. Remember, there are many types of insulin. We have the rapid acting one, we have the regular one, we have the intermediate one, we have the long acting. The long acting one is really a lifesaver. Once a day you take it with small needle. If you really need it, it's important. But please, if you've been told you need insulin, you need it. I will finish up with the last slide that we mentioned. This, please don't forget. If you want to take a picture of this on this Zoom, take it. Take it to your provider. Take it to your doctor. Give it to your family member that have diabetes. This is the ongoing monitoring of diabetes. My patients, actually in my hospital, we have it in the computer that no provider will miss it. If you are working as a nurse practitioner or a nurse, tell your provider, the IT person, where in the computer do you have those things that must be done for every type of patient? This is it. Make sure that every 3 months, A1C is done until it's stable enough that the provider say, now we can do it once in 6 months. Number 2, make sure the kidney is being checked by the urine microalbumin. It must be less than 20. Make sure that if you have diabetes, that they're giving you medicine to protect your kidney. It's important. That ACE inhibitor, like all those lisinopril and all those pre medication, or losartan or Cosa, make sure they give it to you. In my dissertation, I did something on hypertension in Black people. It's one of the things they asked me in defense. We have, and I wrote it in my literature review. They say, oh, Black people are good with amlodipine. Yes, it is good. But when they have diabetes, why are you going to continue only with amlodipine when you know you should protect their kidney? What I do, I reduce the amlodipine a little, and I add something for their kidney. The eye, make sure that you are getting every year, your eye must be checked. 4, make sure that they're protecting your heart by giving you aspirin, and that your blood pressure is lower. That's why I told Dr. Maureen, it's a child to the diabetes. We need the blood pressure control. Cholesterol, look at the LDL, which is we call it the lousy cholesterol, LDL. HDL is the healthy. Make sure it is less than 100. If you have a heart condition, make sure it's less than 70. Feet, make sure I teach my nurse practitioner students, and you must actually check their feet. Monofilament testing, you have to do it. And you teach them to see the foot doctor. It's the last slide, don't worry, we're finishing very soon. Nutritionist, it's not all about medicine. Food is important. I saw the first question that was asked about food. You can eat your fufu, you can eat everything, but in right quantity. We're trying to find out what are the high vegetable food in the African community. We're gonna work on that. Depression. Research has shown that majority of the people with diabetes have depression. Who wouldn't have? We actually have a depression clinic in my hospital just for people with diabetes. It's only natural. Too much. Multiple problems. Make sure that if that medicine you're taking you continue to take it and its A1C is not going down, it's still 8 and above, make sure you ask them to refer you to the endocrinologist. Maybe they need to do more tests and test to see if there's a problem with type 1. Make sure you get education. You can get it from diabetes educator, and nurses, you can also go and become a diabetic educator. Very good thing to have. One of the complications I forgot to mention, decreased libido. If our men, they have that problem with constant high sugar, be patient with them, work with them until they get it together, until they control it. Once it is controlled, the A1C goes down, those complications go away. Another complication for women, too much fungus infection, vaginal infection. Work on that. That is it for today. I hope there will be another day we will talk more, because there's so much to talk about in our diabetes, because it's the killer. It kills a lot of organs, and we want to get them all controlled so that we can live the life God wants us to live if we have control of diabetes. God bless you all.
Bless you too.
Thank you, Dr. Ednah.
You're welcome, sis.
You have said it all. We all know from where Dr. Ednah is coming from, a research person. She have researched the whole place. So what she's telling us today is not believing, just like the fact. Science is based on fact, not just believing or not. This is fact she's telling us. So she has already told us what to do to be healthy, the same thing she's been doing for her community. And she's also making a new research. She's also conducting another research. Dr. Ednah, can you allow me to come into your research group?
Sure. No problem.
Okay. Yeah, I like to fight this out too.
Actually, there will be one this summer. So anybody coming, we need data for African immigrants. We don't have enough data out there for us. So Everybody get involved.
All right. I don't think we have much questions, because everything has been made clear through research, through explanation, through the intelligence of Dr. Ednah.
To God be the
Madu.
glory.
Amen. So there's no question in the posted here, but I just want to find out one question that somebody was asking me before, and I don't know if I explained it well. She asked me, what is non-insulin diabetic ketoacidosis?
Thank you. Non-insulin or diabetic ketoacidosis. So you see, we said that diabetes begins at 126. Either because we are not treating it by lifestyle modification or taking our medicines as we are supposed to, the sugar will keep rising, keep rising. It gets to a point that the person might start throwing ketones in the body. The fat gets into the system. And so it is actually a very high sugar level that gets into with the fat that is combining with it, and the sugar usually will be more than 400 or something like that, and the person can actually go into diabetic coma. And so it is a very high sugar condition that we don't ever want to do it. One of the cases example is a young 18-year-old that just left home to go to school and forgot about taking insulin, forgot about eating right and all that, was found in the dorm in diabetic ketoacidosis. They had to intubate, they had to, it is a worse state of diabetes that is uncontrolled when you stop doing what you're supposed to do. But if we control it, we should be good, and you can live your life healthy.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Another question somebody sent to me said, she is diagnosed with pre-diabetic, and she was feeling sick, so she went to the doctor just for a walk-in, and after checking her, they said that she has irregular EKG, and they took her to ER, and they checked her sugar, and it was 50-something, just 59, but she ate a lot in the morning before going to the doctor. So why would her sugar be so low?
All right. Thank you. High sugar can be dangerous. Low sugar can be even worse. You started saying pre-diabetes. And if you remember in one of the slides, we said that pre-diabetes is borderline, but it's dangerous because it can predispose you to diabetes itself, and it can predispose you to even cardiac diseases. So for her, she ate. Sometimes that's why we say, where is irregular and it doesn't make sense, the endocrinologist may come in. Is it a problem with the pancreas? Is it a problem with type 1? Or is it actually that you take too much of sugar medications? Because sometimes we put patients with pre-diabetes on like metformin or something like that. It might drive it too low. And when it is too low, and persons can go into not diabetic ketoacidosis this time, but insulin shock, that can kill even faster than the higher sugar. So I have to hear the whole story to know what drove it down. Is it because they're eating a lot of food, they're taking a lot of sugar medicine that drove it down, or because of some metabolic problem that is going on there? We have to see. Or maybe they didn't even eat for the day at all, because fasting, if you're fasting and you're not eating, can make your sugar go low too. You can start having dizziness and low sugar attacks, hypoglycemic attack. Even when you're not in medicine, you go check it out. It might be a metabolic, it might be a trouble that they didn't eat. So that's why they said breakfast is always important unless you are fasting. And even if you are fasting, make sure that you have a backup in your liver that will be released when you're fasting.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Ednah. You're a good teacher. So we can round it up here and allow others to teach us more, because our topic here, or our theme is your health, your wisdom, your treasure. Above all these things, I think your health is the most important. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ednah, for that wealth of information. I mean, it is rather sad that, diabetes mellitus is the 6th leading cause of death in America. Unfortunately, it's the leading cause of all the complications, health complications that one could have. Name it the nerves, the kidneys, the heart, even the amputation of your limbs is really, really a very serious illness which we should take seriously. And I beseech all of us here to take the advice of Dr. Ednah to heart. If you visit your primary doctor, please ask your primary doctor, am I at risk? Maybe my family history or due to my race, and insist on being screened for diabetes. And if you are diabetic already, insist on the multidisciplinary approach. Make sure you get referral to the food doctor, to the dietitian, to the social worker, to the eye doctor, everybody. It is very, very important. In the course of my work as a medical personnel in this country, it is so disheartening to see members of our community coming with legs amputated, their hands amputated. Some of them are blind. Most of them are on dialysis. It is really, really disheartening. All this just because of diabetes. I hope we are going to take our advice to heart and do something about it. Thank you so much, Dr. Ednah. And having said that, we'll be having a 5-minute short break. You can stretch, you can go to the bathroom, cup of coffee, Afrobeat will be playing, you can sit back and enjoy it. So see you then in 5 minutes. Thank you so much.
Jehovah Jireh, my provider, Chimamanda. Jehovah Nisi, my healer, Chimamanda. Ocean divider, my redeemer, Chimamanda. Everybody came, my comforter, Chimamanda. Onye nwelu chukwu nwelu nchekwube Chigamanda. Itu kwasi obi na Chineke Chigamanda. Chimamanda. Chimamanda nata. Yaga wachi anamanda. Chimamanda. Mr. Flavor Ishel Africa Chigamanda. Mama mo a formula se Chigamanda nata. Papa mo nyemechi Chigamanda. Fadambaka adoration Chigamanda. Joshua in the synagogue, Chunamanda. The clergy in the Nalwalu, Chunamanda. Chimamanda. Chimamanda. Yagawachianamanda. Wemeko for Chigamanda. Esalune nwego Chris Oba Chigamanda. Obi Jackson Okija Chigamanda nata. Omema inemema Chigamanda. Babalotija Eziohimo Chigamanda. Frank Maremeo South Africa Chigamanda. United Ontio Mama Onafio Mame Pere Osigbo Chigamanda. Baika Denuga Global Com Chigamanda. Ebele Chukwu Obiano Chigamanda. Opulo Kalisia Eziohimo Chigamanda. Bishop Okonkwo Manu Chimamanda, 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 Jagawachi Anyamanda, Chimamanda. Hallelujah. Oh, yes, Lord.
Welcome back, welcome back. The next presentation will be on battered and abused women. You all know how that is very important to Emerald Ladies. That is actually the bedrock of the organization. That is why the organization was incorporated in the first place, to take care of battered and abused women. But before we go into this presentation, we want to actually put up a short video of domestic violence. Because when we talk of domestic violence, people think, oh, it's just a little slap or it's just a little push. At times, it goes far beyond that. People are really physically hurt. Some people end up dead. You guys can, you know about the recent case of the Nigerian artist that was allegedly killed by her husband in the case of domestic violence. It is really, really, really bad where we come from in Nigeria. It looks like there's nobody to help you there. You're on your own. And most times the society doesn't even make it easy for them. As a married woman, they want you to stay there. Whether you are dying or not, you are going to remain there. And most times it's the women that actually, at the forefront of all these things, trying to blackmail all these people even when they want to leave. So before we actually go into the next presentation, we'll be showing a short video of domestic violence, so that you guys see how this really affects us, especially in our Nigerian community. Thank you. Sit back and watch. Thanks.
You don't even shout. You keep quiet. No, if you don't shout, I don't hear your voice, so Allah. Hey! You man, you there. You know, I don't know. You don't see
Snap everything for me. That's very important. Off your hand at this. Don't talk video.
This man get mind. This one just dey like the way we make take time now. Adibi, you know nobody there now. If you just kill you run. Because if you enter come outside, come outside naked, and now I just come outside see somebody. I know that I do this. If you even dey talk, say I know sure that you carry pot to kill your own daughter.
I think the man get mental problem, ba. You need to get. You know how we need to get mental.
Now. So the first when the man no go fit do it. This one don't dey talk for this one. Go to where person dey kiss, you no go even tell her like this.
Oh yeah, Maggie. Yeah, bottle.
Bottle now. Bottle. If you open it, no want to eat bread.
Happy, how you?
911, what's your emergency?
Hi, I would like to order a pizza.
Ma'am, you're calling 911.
I know. What's your special of the day?
Are you okay, ma'am?
No, it's for delivery. The address is 104 Carver Street.
Ma'am, is there someone I can talk to?
Yes, I will also like a pepperoni pizza.
Police is on their way, ma'am. Meanwhile, can you stay on the phone?
No, thank you. Don't take too long. I'll leave the lights on.
I'm sorry, that was really graphic to watch, you know. Just look at the difference between the domestic violence in America and the domestic violence back in Nigeria. At least here, the one in the United States of America, the woman could call 911 under the disguise that she was calling a pizzeria. But in Nigeria, nobody was helping. There's no 911, there's nothing. It is really, really, really so sad. And that is why we are calling on everybody. Please, in any way we can help our sisters back home, you know, who are going through domestic violence. If we can reach the government or security, whatever that can bring policies that can help these people. It is really, really bad because these people are suffering and it's like there's nobody there to help them. Anyway, having said that, there's nobody else that can deal with this issue better than Dr. Grace. Dr. Grace is known by most people on this forum. But for the benefit of the people that don't know Dr. Grace, I am just going to introduce Dr. Grace. Dr. Grace is actually the founder of Nigerian Nurses Association here in America. She has had so many health fairs, both here and in Nigeria. They've adopted so many health centers, upgraded so many health centers, provided the personnel for so many health centers back in Nigeria. She has on her own changed the curriculum for nurses and nursing school in Edo State. And she has done a lot for women. Dr. Grace, when we had a fundraising, Eastwood Manor some years back, even though she was traveling to Nigeria that day, she made it a point of duty to come. She spoke to us and she made a powerful donation to the organization. And that is why today there's no other person to talk to us about battered and abused women than Dr. Grace. So Dr. Grace Ogiehor-Enomah is an adjunct associate professor at Hunter Bellevue School of Nursing. She's a nurse administrator at New York Presbyterian Hospital, Queens. She's the founder of the Nigerian Nurses Association of USA. She is the founding member, chair of the board of National Association of Nigerian Nurses in North America. She's a certified nurse executive. She's a fellow and mentor of NYU Leadership Institute for Black Nurses. She's a fellow of the Carnegie African Diaspora Fellowship. Dr. Ogiehor-Enomah Grace got her basic nursing and midwifery school from Edo State in Nigeria. She got her Bachelor's of Science in Nursing degree from Pace University, New York. She has a master's degree in public health from CUNY Hunter College in New York. She has a Master of Science in Nursing from CUNY Hunter, New York, and a doctorate in health administration from the University of Phoenix. Please, you guys give a rounding ovation to Dr. Grace Enomah. Dr. Grace.
Wow. Thank you so much. Emerald Ladies International, standing on the rock. I didn't hear that all evening. Emerald Ladies standing on the rock, right? So thank you for having me. And also, I just want to thank the co-presenters, Dr. Maureen and Dr. Ednah, for doing justice to high blood pressure and to diabetes. So now we're going to talk about, I'm asked to talk about battered and abused women. battered and abused women. We do not talk about it, but today we're going to talk about it. So I really want to thank the Emerald ladies for putting this symposium together. But I also want to give a shout out to all Nigerian nurses in the house. They all came in. MS, if you look at the forum, a lot of Nigerian nurses always supported. Let's give a shout out to Nigerian nurses. Great nurses. Yes. Nigerian nurses were great. Emerald ladies standing on the rock. So before we continue, I just want us to do a quick, you just type on your platform. There's a few questions I just want you to quickly answer. Question 1, domestic violence is a rare occurrence, true or false? Just type it there, put 1 true or 1 false. Question 1, domestic violence is a rare occurrence, true or false? Write down your answer. Question 2, 1 in 3 American women will be abused by a current or former partner or colleague, true or false? Write down the answer. Question 3, abuse is a family matter. It's no one else's business. True or false? Write down the answer. Question 4, when you write there, put 4. Question 3, so put the answer. Question 4, alcohol and drugs are the main causes of domestic violence. True or false? Write down the answer. Question 5, is the perpetrator of domestic violence always a man? Yes or no? Question 5, yes or no? Is the perpetrator of domestic violence always a man? Yes or no? Question 6, is it safe to go to a neighbor or relative's house when deciding what to do? Yes or no? Is it safe? Question 6, to go to a neighbor's house or relative's house. Question 7, how do I know if I am in a domestic violence? This you can write it in. How will you know that you are in a domestic violence? And then question 8, what does the law say about domestic violence? Question 8, what does the law say about domestic violence? You could write that in. So I'm asked to speak about battered women. But before we talk about battered and abused women, I will want us to look at the preambles. Okay, so what will be our takeaway? We will have a greater knowledge and awareness of the potential consequences of violence and abuse against women. At the end, we're going to have confidence to routinely ask about violence and abuse in our community. Like I said, we don't talk about it. It's like a taboo. And then 3, be able to respond appropriately using World Health Organization and United Nations Women Framework. There is a framework now that we can use to prevent or to respond to domestic violence, and it is called Respect Women. Respect Women, to reduce violence, and abuse against women in our community. So we discussed that Respect Women framework in details. So what is our introduction right now? Before we talk about battered women, let's look at the violence. According to United Nations, because I'm going to go back to those videos, again, I want to apologize for those of you that found the video very disturbing, but we really have to see what people are going through right now. Okay, the United Nations define violence against women as any act of gender-based violence that results in or is likely to result in physical, sexual, or mental harm or suffering to women, including threats of such acts. Violence against women. Also, the definition of intimate partner violence. So when people think about domestic violence, they always look at women and men. But right now, we're looking at intimate partner violence that refers to behavior by an intimate partner or ex-partner that causes physical, sexual, or psychological harm. We will also talk about sexual violence. Sexual violence, any sexual act to obtain sexual act or other act directed against a person's sexuality. So this is a definition, from United Nations. And abuse in itself is defined as a repetitive pattern of behavior. Repetitive, and that is what we're going to look at. Repetitive pattern of behavior to maintain power and control over an intimate partner. That is abuse we're talking about. These are behaviors that are physically harm, arouse fear, or prevent a partner from doing what they wish or force them to behave in a certain way. We've seen that a lot, so we're going to look at all that. But before that, let's look at the scope of the problem. From the video you just saw, those were just 3. There's so many videos even in the YouTube. And we know that this problem is huge, like Dr. Ada said. 2018 analysis of prevalence data from 2000 to 2018 across 161 countries. 161 countries. The World Health Organization conducted an analysis and found that worldwide, so you can see how spread the scope of the problem, nearly 1 in 3 or 30% of women have been subjected to physical or sexual violence. And I'm sure you know this already, but we really want to drive it home. In 161 countries. So this is not only Nigeria. This is not only in America. 161, nearly 1 in 3 or 30% of women have been subjected to physical or sexual violence. In the United States, on average, nearly 20 people per minute, 20 people per minute are physically abused. 20 per minute. We're looking at the scope. 20 per minute are physically abused by an intimate partner. In 1 year, that equates to more than 10 million women and men. Because I know when we talk about domestic violence, we tend to talk about women, and men, 10 million, that is a lot. 1 in 4 women and 1 in 7 men experience severe intimate partner physical violence, intimate partner contact sexual violence, or stalking, such as injuries or fearfulness, post-traumatic stress. 1 in 4 women. This is huge. This problem is huge. And that is why we have to talk about it. Just as we talk about diabetes, just as we talk about high blood pressure, we need to talk about domestic violence in our community. So if you look at in the numbers, we also have to look at not just the women and the men being abused, it also affects our economy. That 8.3 billion annual cost of domestic violence in the United States. I'm using that because we have a data for that. And $4.4 trillion annual cost of domestic violence worldwide. So when we're saying 1 in 4 women, 1 in 7 men are victims of severe violence. So it shows that this is a big problem in our community. Now let's take it home. Let's take it down now to our community. Like Ms. Ada said, I have been involved in domestic violence since I heard about the incident in our community. And most of you in this forum, I'm sure you know about it, you heard about it. From 2005 to 2008, an epidemic was impacting the Nigerian community. From 2005 to 2008. I'm not saying that it's over, but I will tell you the journey so far. In the United States, some statistics will tell you 10 Nigerian women were killed in this country by their husbands, Nigerian husbands. 10 Nigerian women. Out of those, 7 or 8 of them were nurses. So 2008 was a wake-up call for us. When 8 nurses, I'm a Nigerian nurse, I'm a proud nurse, everybody knows that. And at that time, we have Nigerian Nurses Association USA already and New Jersey. About 6 of states have Nigerian nurses. So what we were hearing, people were calling us, we are the cause of the death. We are the cause why people nurses are being killed. What is the problem with nursing? What is actually going on? That made us, and that is what gave birth to National Association of Nigerian Nurses in North America, where those 6 chapters came together to write a press release, Domestic Violence, a call for action in the Nigerian communities in America. Official statement from the National Association of Nigerian Nurses. We released that information October 1st, 2008, to tell our community that nursing is not the reason why these men were killing the women. But we wanted to know why 7 or 8 Nigerian nurses, why were they killed? Why, nursing was what really connected. And then that was how we started program, Domestic Violence Awareness Campaign, and we started a research in our community. We wanted to know why. Dr. Stella Owagu, who is in Abuja currently, was here in Iowa, and she channeled that program. And we did the research. We wanted to find out. And no time will not permit me to go into what we found out. And because of our result, the findings, because we saw that some of them, and I'll give a classical example of one of the nurses that was killed in California. After the man killed her, she tied her body to the car and drove around and said, she messed me up, I've killed. And he called 911, said, come and arrest me, I've killed the woman who messed up my life. Apparently he went to Nigeria to bring her. That was a common theme amongst them, going to Nigeria. And then the one in, there was another one that he came and said, well, I brought it was seen as an ATM machine. So we saw all this, the research, what we started finding, and then we decided as an organization to put together a program. And since 2011 to date, if you look at the slide, I put together every conference, every year. We have 3 hours on domestic violence on our conference to talk about domestic violence in our community. And I would say that, thank God, since that time, we've not had any nurse being killed by her husband. I'm not saying we put a stop to that, because killing is the extreme. What about those suffering? So we still need a lot of work. And that is why I love Emerald Ladies. When they invited me a few years ago, I was so excited. Even if I was going to Nigeria, I wanted to go, because they are focusing on battered and abused women. Battered and abused women. So in Nigeria, when we did our research, we also took it to Nigeria, because we find that these men were going to Nigeria to marry these people. And we did a program in Nigeria in 2014. During the Ministry of Health, we went to Ministry of Health and lobbied that domestic violence must be considered in Nigeria a public health issue. So at the end of that meeting, there was a communique that was issued to make domestic violence a public health issue in Nigeria. I won't bore you down with what we put together, but the meeting, it brought together NANA, Legal Aid Council, National Human Rights Commission, Abuja Muslim Forum, National Association of Nigerian Nurses, NAM, Nursing Council, International Federation of Female Lawyers. That really opened my eye to a lot of work that these organizations were doing already in Nigeria. National Orientation Agency, Daughters of Abraham Foundation, even the Nigerian police, we all came together. We came together in that forum to declare domestic violence a public health issue in Nigeria. And once that was done, federal ministry could now put money into programs. And the next slide, we see that there are activities that we put together. This forum is not for that, and I'm going to share that with Emerald ladies so that they can see which of these activities they want to anchor in Nigeria. They're already doing this now, providing awareness, developing materials that talk about domestic violence. So this is what we'll be doing in NANA. Lobby the Justice Commission, and also we lobbied a bill, that was finally passed in 2015. So this is huge, and it's a big problem, and we need everyone, like Ms. Ada had said, every hands on desk to work on that. So what are the myths and truths about domestic violence? I haven't given you just a preamble introduction of where, my experience with dealing with domestic violence. Domestic violence, the myths, domestic violence and family violence occur only in working and poorer families. poorer families. We think it's, it happened in the village, it happened in poor people. But that is not true. Domestic violence happens in all communities, as you've seen, 161 countries, from all social and cultural groups. Domestic violence happens across professional groups. And like Ada had said, with our of blessed memory in Nigeria, the gospel singer that was killed, allegedly killed by her husband, she was a now renowned gospel singer, Osinachi Nwanchukwu. Even when I look at her, at the music she played, I think Ekwe, that song had 171 million views on YouTube. That is how huge. But that lady still went down. That is domestic violence. Occurs in all walks of life, all communities. Violent men cannot control themselves. Again, this is a myth. No, that is not true. If they cannot control themselves, why don't they fight in their place of work or kill their boss? That is not true. Violence, women enjoy being abused. We hear this a lot. Otherwise, they will leave. We will talk more about that, why they stay. That is not true. It's not that women love to be abused or they want to be abused. That is only a myth. So that's why I'm talking about all these that are not true, that are not factual. I want us to remove that before we go into battered and abused women. Another one that people talk about is loving, caring partner do not use violence. That is not true. Violence can happen in the most loving and caring relationship. Sometimes too, you see that after they beat the woman, they will buy the next day, they bring flour. I am so sorry. And then they become so sweet, with what they're doing. Another non-factual myth is only small number of women have experienced domestic violence. So we saw that 1 in 3 or 1 in 4 women experience domestic violence and 1 in 7 men. So it's not just small. It's not a small problem, it's a huge problem. Another non-factual information we hear about is that alcohol and stress are to blame for domestic violence. They're just using that for excuse, not alcohol. Once somebody is already an abuser, the person is an abuser. Another myth is that domestic violence is rarely spoken about because it's a private family affair. Domestic violence is not a family affair. Domestic violence is a crime. Domestic violence is a crime. It is not part of any relationship at all. In 1994, in the US, the Congress passed Violence Against Women Act, which is called VAWA. And 1996, addition to the act to recognize that domestic violence is a national crime in the US. So domestic violence in the USA is a crime. In Nigeria, I know Ms. Ada had said nothing is being done. A lot has been done in Nigeria and it's still being done. We just have to collaborate. We just have to work together. We just have to come together. In Nigeria, right, as I told you in 2014, Ministry of Health declared domestic violence a public health issue. And I just want all of you to know that in 2015, the former President Jonathan Goodluck signed into law. In Nigeria, we have that law, the Violence Against Persons Prohibition Act, also known as VAP. You can go out there and research it. So that law is there. Unfortunately, that is a federal law that each state has to domesticate. As we speak, only 20 states. Remember, we have 36 states plus federal territory. Only 20 states have domesticated this law, the VAP law. 3 days ago, we celebrated because one of the states in the north actually signed it, finally domesticated that law. So there is a law, it's a crime in Nigeria, it's a crime everywhere for you to abuse anyone. The way Nigeria put it is violence against persons. Violence against persons. So domestic violence is not just a private family affair. No, domestic violence is a crime. Domestic violence, another non-factual, is that domestic violence only happens where there is unemployment and poverty. That is not true. We said that even lawyers, doctors, and then you saw 7 nurses died from domestic violence, women from all backgrounds, all ages, all cultures. And that is why it's big, and that is why we have to come together. Women know their rights, another myth, know their right and can leave the situation if they want to. A strong sense of silence and secrecy often go with domestic violence. Women don't speak about it. A lot of us on this platform, I'm sure are going through a lot right now, but will not say because of the secrecy, and also the shame. People tend to feel that it's shameful when you say it out. Remember, even with the Sinachi, the pastor didn't know about it. And because she didn't want people to talk about it, she was so ashamed. She was a deacon in her church. There's another video I wanted to bring in here. Maybe some of you have seen it, where the children stood as a wall to protect their mother. That man that took out a bet and wanted to beat the woman that gave her 4 children, he is a deaconess in the church, a deacon in the church. The wife is a deaconess. Meanwhile, domestic violence was going on in their house, and the children had to start, and that happened in Abuja 2 weeks ago. The video is circulating. So domestic violence occurs everywhere. So those are the preambles. Now let's talk about battered women. What does it mean when a woman is battered? We talk a lot about domestic violence, but let us know that battered woman or violence against women is a repeated violence from a spouse or partner. When we say battered, somebody is battered. So when you now refer to a woman, like Osinachi, she was battered, but nobody knew, or even a lot of people around her knew, but couldn't talk about it. So battered woman is a highly variable symptom, complex of physical, psychological injuries exhibited by a woman repeatedly abused, especially physically by her mate. The third video you saw, where was that the third or the second video with the blade, with the cut on her body? That lady was battered to the extent she had to leave her house and she ran to her sister's house. That event happened on a Sunday morning. The sister went to church because she was taking care of the children. She had 4 children for her husband, and the husband is a police officer in Nigeria, that woman. And she was taking a bath when the doorbell rang. The daughter, if you noticed in that video, the daughter was also injured because the daughter was trying to stop the father from killing the mother. And so you could see the head, she was also injured. So this woman has been so battered that she left the husband's house. But guess what? Because the husband was a police officer, he used the tracker on the phone to track the woman to the sister's house. And thank God for neighbors that came out, that woman would have been dead. So what is a battered woman syndrome? When a woman is battered. Battered woman syndrome is caused by domestic abuse. Ongoing. Why is sometimes it can happen between intimate partners? The term domestic abuse is an umbrella term that includes the child, elder abuse, as well. So battered woman syndrome is considered a subcategory of post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD. People might think, oh, it's just family issue. No, it's not. This is huge. Battered woman syndrome is fatal. You can see there's a power and control, the will, what we call the will of violence. This woman every day, if you saw the first video, the man pulled the hair, was pulling the woman, pull her hair, dragging her out of the compound. She must leave the house today. Kicking, choking. Some of them, they spit on them. Some use the children. They take away the children and drive the women away, using children as a weapon. Using isolation. They don't want them to talk to their parents. They don't want them to talk to friends anymore. They may not belong to any club. They don't want that. Or sometimes they use privileges. That is what we call the will, the circle. The heterosexism. You can see the physical violence, sexual pushing, shoving, hitting. It's a will, and it just continues. So when you look at what is the outlook for this woman that has gone through this circle, a battered woman syndrome is a serious mental health. This woman has been so abused that most of them don't even know if it's right or wrong anymore. They see it as a routine. Some of them see it as normal. So battered woman syndrome is a serious mental health condition that develops as a result of serious domestic abuse, often at the hands of an intimate partner. The good thing is the treatment is possible for people who escape. And we will talk about that too, because that is also the dangerous time. And it's possible to move forward with life. There will be some abuse that some women feel that they cannot move on. A lot of people spoke to Osinachi. A lot of people spoke to her, even her mentor. But she knows she wanted to stay. She thought she could change the man. If you or someone you know is experiencing domestic abuse, it's important to get help as soon as possible. Let's get help because it is a danger. What are the stages of battered woman syndrome? What are the stages? And this is why you see some of them get stuck. Because of the unique circumstances that different people can find themselves in, battered woman syndrome may not look the same for everyone. There are 4 stages of battered woman syndrome. One is denial. The woman denied. The person is unable to accept that they are being abused. Or they justify it for, oh, just one time. You know, it's just because he's just upset. Denial. Or sometimes we use the culture. Oh, he's the head of the house. We use scriptures. Obey. I'm just obedient servant, obedient woman. We use that, so you deny it. Sinachi denied until she died. Then there's a guilt. The person believes they caused the abuse. Oh, maybe if I cook the food on time, maybe if I serve the food warm, maybe if I do this, maybe if I do that. So now the abuse, the person that is doing abuse, the victim, now start feeling guilty. However, when you talk about stages, time comes for some of them, the stage of enlightenment. This person becomes enlightened. And in this phase, the person realizes that they didn't deserve the abuse. They acknowledge it. They are now acknowledged that the partner is the abuser. And sometimes they now take responsibility and they want the abuser to take responsibility. You know, so it's very important to look at those stages. And for you to help the victim, you have to know the stage that he or she, I use the word he or she, because you also have men that are being abused by the women. So women, when she's abused, for you to help, you have to know the stages of battered woman syndrome. So for you to help, you have to know the stage that the woman is. Is she in a denial stage? What do you do if she's in a denial stage? Is she in the guilty phase of that? So for you, knowing the stages will help tailor the intervention to help this woman. And there's also a battered woman syndrome circle. The circle that most of us know very well, where you have phase 1, the tension building, phase 2, you have the abuse, and then you now have phase 3, the honeymoon, and after the honeymoon, then the phase starts all over again. And also this person is angry and they beats the woman up. You made me do it. Why did you make me do it? And at the end, she buys a flower. I'm so sorry, I won't do it again. Honeymoon. And then some women will feel, you know, when he's so sweet, he's so sweet if he's not angry. No, he's not so sweet. He's an abuser. We have to label it the way it is. It's an abuser. You know, so the abuser will feel guilty, swearing they would never do it again. They will never do it again and become romantic. You know, they become overly romantic and then the woman is carried away. Oh yeah, she feels loved, at least for once. Sometimes when these women go through this syndrome, they don't know what to believe. You don't know what to expect from the man. Is it the honeymoon phase or is it the abuse phase? So it's a very dangerous situation, you know, that when you talk about the circle of violence. So why do people stay in abusive relationship? A lot of people that are not in the situation, it's easy for you to say, why can't she just leave? Like a lot of people said with the Osinachi, why didn't she just leave? There are different reasons. People are trapped in an abusive relation for many reasons. One, it could involve financial dependence. You know, most of those cases we talk about in the Nigerian community and the research we did, in our community, the biggest is our culture. The culture that the woman, when you leave, everybody will laugh at me. What will people say? The same thing happened to that gospel singer. Her church that she was the lead singer is one of the biggest churches in Abuja. She didn't want to leave because she was a gospel singer. Everybody know her. And, the same thing here. Oh, I don't want people to laugh at me. I don't want people, the guilt. And some is for the children. We've seen some cases, the women will stay, take the abuse. They will say until the children are grown. Actually, one woman told me the other day, I can't just wait for these children to grow. I have 2 months to go out of college. After that, this man will know who I am. My goodness. She had to take all the abuse. So I told her, if you're alive, that is when he will know who you are. Some are afraid to leave, but where will they go? Some don't know where to go. Like Mr. Ada said, in Nigeria, a lot of them don't know that they have the laws, that they have rules. Look at that woman that was beaten. She left. Guess what? She was still caught. And it was a police officer. Who is she going to report the case to? Blaming themselves. Some of them is fear. Some, so they're so depressed, low self-esteem, don't know what to do anymore. Some don't even have the money to move. In some of the cases of the domestic violence we saw in our community here in the US, the women were the one working, nurses, I'm telling you, doing overtime, bringing the money home. But guess what happened? The men will take the money from them and give them pocket money. I'm not exaggerating. This is what we saw. And we give these women, nurses, I'm telling you, pocket money. In one case, the mother wanted money so bad. She was so afraid to send money to her mother. She was so afraid to send money to her. And this is a lady who put in hours at work, bringing the money home, because the husband felt she has invested in her. So every money she makes now belongs to him, because she went to Nigeria to bring him. So there are different reasons. So we can't use one size fits all. So we have to be careful. What are the warning signs? If you are concerned about a family member or friend, watch for several important symptoms that could signal that they are in an abusive relationship and they need help. 1, withdrawing and making excuses not to see friends or family. Remember, one size does not fit all. Some are seeming anxious around their partner. They are afraid. They can't say anything when the partner is there. I'm talking now. Why are you talking? Having frequent bruises and injuries. For nurses, we know this now. When the injury does not correlate with the reason for the injury, that is a red flag. Having limited access to money. They know so much, they want to control the power, so what they do, they don't give them the money. Showing an extreme differences in personality, you can see some of them. And then they get frequent calls. Why are you still there? Aren't you coming out? So these are warning signs that you can see, but you have to be careful too. What are the side effects for a battered woman syndrome? The side effect, what they go through. This is what we call the tree of sadness. The tree of sadness comes from physical abuse, sexual abuse, emotional abuse, where this individual has an ability to trust people. She becomes even violent herself. She doesn't trust whether a woman friend, male friend, self-harm. Some of them want to kill themselves, sexual problems, nightmares, phobia. So you can see that battered woman syndrome is a huge problem, complex. Some of them have an eating disorder. They have anxiety, So these side effects with these women is very, very, very important when we are working with them to look at what side effects they are displaying. So how do you get help for battered woman syndrome? If you suspect that someone is in an abusive relationship or has battered woman syndrome, it's important for you to withhold judgment. Our community, we are very judgmental. Very judgmental. You see, the husband is beating her. Please hold your judgment. It's not her fault. The first step in treating battered woman syndrome is to get the person to a safe place away from the abuser. Sometimes, like we said, it's not your relative's place, because they will come to your relative house. There was a nurse that was killed in front of her mother's house. She ran to her mother's house and the man chased her there. And as soon as by this door, she was waiting for her mother to open the door. the man went there and shoot the nurse right there. So that is why here in the US, you have safe homes, safe homes where battered women could go to. We don't have that much in Nigeria currently, safe home where they can go to. However, battered women in Nigeria tend to go back to their family house. But guess what? The family don't accept them. In some culture, they tell you once you leave. I think that is my culture. In Edo culture, they tell you once you get married, you leave your house, you leave your family house. There's no more room for you to come to. That is a dangerous practice. That's a dangerous practice. But guess what? It's changing right now. It's changing. Families are standing up to their abusers, and that is what we want. A lot of family members are standing up. How do you get help? Many people in these circumstances feel shamed or afraid to admit what is happening. Make it easier for them, like we said. People living abusive relationships may also file restraining orders against their abusers here in the US and even in Nigeria. Yes, in Nigeria, you can file restraining orders. I think that lady that we saw in that video, she did have restraining orders. It's important to remember that you should never force someone with Battered syndrome to take action. You can't force them to leave. That is why you have to look at the stages and know the stage they are in. Depending on the stage, that is how you work with them. Please do not insert yourself in their position. If not me, I will do this. Oh, they can't do this to me. Please, it's not your battle. That is very dangerous. You don't insert yourself. Your husband can't do this. We don't know. Keep yours to yourself. Focus on this woman. Focus on what is going on around her. Assess the stages. What stage is she in? Then you can now provide intervention. There are 4 steps that you want to use when we are providing intervention. One is to identify domestic violence. Validate victim's experience. Please, again, do not insert yourself into her story. Validate it. She's the one experiencing it. And advocate for safety. There has to be a plan. She needs to have a plan to escape. Provide ongoing unconditional support. Right here, we have what? Domestic violence hotline, every city, every county, and then the national one is there. Be careful. Most times, the homicide occur when the victims try to leave. The abuser will tell you, if I can't have you, nobody can have you. And that was what that policeman in that video, that was what he did. He wanted to kill that woman. And good news is that that policeman is in jail right now. He's in jail. He's a policeman. He's in jail for that assault he had on that woman. So I want to give it up to Nigeria that they are still doing something right now. Right, let's give it up to Nigeria. That policeman, that video you saw, it happened last month. That video happened last month. Because we get every videos from this police. Remember I told you when we are working with them, with the Ministry of Health, so we get all this information. That was last month that happened, and the man has been arrested. Prevention and response. Intimate partner violence is often portrayed as a private issue, like we said, by the media and criminal justice. In reality, such violence, which need not even be physical, create ripple effects that extend to entire communities and beyond. It's not only the abuser that is being affected, the family. Remember, if it's the woman that died, some of them may still have a mother, have parents, have sisters. Look at the children. The one in California I told you about, the children are grown and they are now advocate for domestic violence. Children and domestic violence. 1 in 15 children are exposed to intimate partner violence each year. It's unfortunate, but I'm going to look for that video, and also I will post it to NAUSA platform and send it to Emerald Ladies, where these children stood up to their father. 90% of these children are eyewitnesses to this violence. So it's not only the women or the men, but the children are also affected. And that is why we must take a stand. We must work together to prevent domestic violence in our community. Please, it's not a taboo. The abuser needs help as much as the victim as well. So we have to work to prevent this in our community. We need to speak up. Prevention and response. There is a growing evidence on what works to prevent violence. Like I said, Nana has done so much. Continue. Every conference we have every year, November, we dedicate 3 hours to domestic violence. We discussed that. One of the sessions we had, the men's voice. We wanted the men to tell us how they feel about it. We hear the women's voice. We wanted the men's voice. Hopefully we put that into a video. And last year, Dallas, Texas had a video that they did about domestic violence. Okay, each letter, right now in 2019, the World Health Organization and United Women, and endorsed by 12 other UN, came up with a framework to prevent violence, and it is called Respect Women. I don't know how many people that have seen this or know about this respect. Each letter of the word respect. So when we talk about domestic violence, we use the framework respect, and each letter stands for one of the 7 strategies. Domestic violence is broad. It's so broad. You can look at it from the male perspective, from the abuser perspective, from the children perspective, from the victim, the battered woman perspective. We can look at it from the community perspective, culture perspective, or cultural perspective. You can look at it from religious perspective. So you can see that right now we're trying to create series, looking at it from those perspectives. And that is why you have to have strategies. And so to look at it from those perspectives, we are now using, so please, if you leave here, let it be on your lips, respect, respect. And what is that? R stands for relationship skills strengthening. Relationship skills strengthening. This is very important because when we talk about domestic violence, people look at the act itself. However, what leads to that is that relationship building. In Nigerian community, we need to help build relationship in our various community, in our club. Look at the way we speak to each other. Look at the way we address each other. Look at the way we talk to each other. You know, how do we relate to each other? Do we trust each other? Relationship skills must be strengthened. We need to work with the children, start from there, so for them to learn how to build relationship. Then 2, E in respect is empowerment of women. The next video you're going to see is when we talk about empowerment. Empowering our women to be strong. Empowering our women to be proactive. Empowering our women. And that is why nurses, when we do our conferences, we empower our nurses to go for leadership, to go back to school, so they are empowered, you know. Empowerment doesn't mean that you have to leave your husband. That is not what we're saying. No. You are empowered in a way that you bring the family together. You build relationship. You work as a team. That is how you succeed as a team. And you get help for the abuser. You get help for the children. You get help for the victim. That is empowerment. Services ensured. The S in respect stands for services ensured, so that we can have all these services. You know, you have now restraining orders, you have bill to be passed, all the services for the women, the hotline, you know, that they can call, the safe haven where the women can go to, services. Poverty reduction. And I just want to thank Emerald Women for choosing this as their rock, what they want to work on. Nigeria right now, we need to empower the women. We need to reduce poverty. Sometimes that is what makes the women stay. That is P, we say poverty reduction. The E in the respect is enabling environment, you know, enabling environment where even the schools, the public places to reduce domestic violence, to create environment where people can speak up. They can talk about it. That is the enabling environment. The E. C is transform attitudes, beliefs, and norm. It's not the norm for the man to be beating the woman. It's not in our culture. It's not the belief. People sometimes use the Bible. Oh yes, obey your husband. We're not saying don't obey, but it's not No man should raise their hand against any woman. And this is very important, that we need to focus on domestic violence, battered women, but the most important is to use respect to develop strategies to prevent domestic violence in our community. Thank you, Emerald Women, for having me. There is so much we can talk about when it comes to domestic violence. You know, we can come back and talk about the research that we did, what we found out. You know, that most of these men go to Nigeria to marry these women from the villages. Once they bring them here, they feel that they are now in control of their lives. You know, they can't say anything. So I really want to appreciate you for bringing this. This is generic discussion, but we have series when it comes to domestic violence from different perspectives, from the men's perspective, the victim perspective, the children perspective, religion, culture. You know, so we need to look at all that so we can put together a program that no one will die from the hands of our men. No woman will die anymore. No nurse will die in the hands of her husband. No Nigerian woman will die in the hands of their husband. We will save the family, and that is what Emerald Women stand on the rock this time. Thank you for having me.
The seed of the woman shall trample the head of the serpent. I am that woman, and I am the weapon that God uses to fight. I am
a woman, and I'm proud to be a woman, fearfully and wonderfully made, crafted with divine hands, God's own beautiful creation, and a work of perfection.
I am furnished with priceless treasure in this glorious vessel. I am worthy and precious in God's eyes.
My sense of self cannot be eroded or corroded. Nothing can bring me down.
I am unbreakable. I am unshakable. I am unstoppable. I am unmatched. I am unique.
I am an overcomer, called to a victorious life. I am bold, strong, and courageous. I can make a difference, and I am the difference.
I am worthy of love. I am worthy of honor. I am worthy of respect.
I'm worthy to be heard. I'm worthy of empowerment. I'm worthy to be celebrated.
I am a daughter. I am a sister. I am a wife, and I am a mother.
I am a woman, and I am enough.
To that young girl out there aspiring to be tomorrow's leader, to that strong woman looking at me today, this is for you. You are worthy of love, are worthy of honor, are worthy to be respected, are worthy to be heard, are worthy to be empowered. My sister, you are worthy to be celebrated.
Empowering women. And a woman, please, just when we say you are empowered, people tend to equate it, oh, she's rude, you know, she does not respect her husband. That is not what empowerment means. So that video is so powerful that I am a woman of success. I am a daughter of success, and I am empowered. So every woman right here in this house, you are empowered. You are beautiful. You are intelligent. You are awesome. You cannot be abused. Thank you.
What an excellent presentation. Thank you so much, Dr. Grace. Nobody could have done this any better than you. You just did justice to this topic, and I'm very happy that you agreed to talk to us on this topic. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I see a hand up. We just have maybe a question or two. I see Stella has this hand up. I guess she wants to ask a question. Stella actually is one of the founders of Emerald Ladies, and I know this topic is just very close to her heart. Stella, I think you need to ask a question. Go ahead.
I want to thank Dr. Grace. It's always a pleasure to hear you speak on this issue.
Thank you.
It is indeed a dear topic in my heart, and this is a very great exposition. I can't thank you enough. But I wanted you to address this issue that bothers me sometimes when I hear people say, what did the woman do she must have done something to deserve the beating. The man is not just going to beat her for nothing. So if you can just take a minute or two to address that issue, I would be very, very delighted. Thank you.
Thank you so much. If you look at when we talk about the stages or even the syndrome or the community, remember now the abuser is the one responsible. But what happened? We look for excuses. We say it's alcohol. Yes, it's the woman that caused that. Just like when the woman is raped, we say, oh, why did she dress in that? Why did she wear the short miniskirt? That is a way of taking the responsibility away from the abuser. And in the culture, you say, oh, it's because she deserves it. Who deserves to be abused? Nobody. The woman does not deserve that. The woman does not cause that. The problem, what it is that domestic violence, the abuser has a problem. Some of them is mental. Some of them have mental issues. Some of them is also cultural. Some of them you hide behind the religion, to do that. So it is not what the woman is doing. However, in some cases, we say, oh, the women talk too much. I think you hear that. They say, oh, because the woman is very insulting, because the man is quiet. So the only way the man can really handle the insult the woman is pouring on him is to be physical. But we've also seen some cases where the woman is not insulting. And then the man just, again, is what has happened to him. Some of these abusers, they've been abused before. They see it as a norm because they went through that when they were growing up. So there are different variables that lead these individuals to do that. But no, we must not accept that as the responsibility that the woman is the cause. Remember also when we talk about the abuse, it's not only the man that abused the woman also abused the man. We've seen where the woman will beat the man up. There are also videos that shows where the woman is beating the man. And sometimes the women really abuse. In a case where we saw that was very interesting here, even in the US, yes, a nurse here, who went to Nigeria, agreed, they had a relationship that the man told, when you come to America, you're not going to work. The woman accepted. She will not work. She wants to come. So you already see a problem in that situation. She accepted in Nigeria, she's coming to America. She agreed with the man, when I get to America, I will not work. And she's a nurse. She's leaving her family behind. And then she gets here, what happened? 1 year down the road, she wants to work. Now the man said, I told you can't work. She said, no, I have to work. I'm a nurse, I can't stay at home. That leads to what? Argument and fight. And that became the problem there. And then the woman, in that situation, the man was actually an engineer, and he could not get a job in this field, and he started driving a cab. Every day, the woman continued to tell him, your mates are doctors, you can't even pass. You're only a cab driver. You're only a cab driver. And that was what the man hears. And the next time she said that what happened, she beat her up, and she landed up in the hospital. Yes, you can sometimes see the way you continue to say it, but that is not enough for any individual to raise their hand on anybody. And then also for every woman in this room, please, let's be mindful. That's why we talk about relationship building. Let's be mindful of the way we speak to each other, the way we speak to our loved ones, the way we speak to our children, the way we speak to our families. Let's focus on relationship building. Very important. Please, domestic violence, the abuser takes responsibility for abusing. He can walk away, he can walk out, but he cannot hit anybody. Nobody should raise their feet to hit any woman or any man. Thank you.
Dr. Grace, like I said, you did justice to this topic, But I just have one question I need to ask. I know as a leader, you've lobbied, you've influenced policies in Nigeria. And one of the reasons you gave why women stay most times is due to financial dependence. They depend on these men for their food, for their clothing, for their health. Is there any way, or is there anything in the pipeline for now where you could lobby, or the group will lobby and influence, policies that will at least provide safe haven for battered and abused women and their children in Nigeria? Is there any such thing in the pipeline for now?
Right, there's a group right now. If I don't know if people have heard about this program, Human Rights Radio and Television, in Nigeria. That Human Rights Radio and Television, they're doing a great job when it comes to battered women. So they currently are providing safe haven. But hopefully we're saying that, in the future, the social services is an important aspect that is missing or lacking in Nigeria right now. So we are hoping that non-for-profit organizations fill the void, the gap. So what non-for-profit organizations, just as they're doing, they are having orphanage homes to have those safe homes. I think there is a lady in, I don't know if it's Ekiti State, that just built a hotel for women, battered women. So non-for-profit organizations are stepping up, they're coming up doing these things. The government, we don't know, we are hoping, yes, that they will do that. I think the Female Lawyers Association are also doing that right now. So there are different groups doing things. So we hope that in the future, yes, the government, the social services are there, it's just that it's not enough. It's not enough. It's the awareness that is also a key. I think also if we can liaise with the high school so that you get them young. Get the women young, get the boys young, get them young. Let's liaise with schools, with the school curriculum so they can develop what? No violence, reducing. And now our country is violence everywhere. So how do we help these young generations to know that violence is not the key? So working with the secondary schools will also help as well. Yes, safe haven non-profit organizations are doing that. And I think Emerald Women can look into that to see which organization to partner with. The Nigerian Female Lawyers Association is a group, and also the Human Rights Radio and Television. You could Google it, you could go to their website. They're doing great. They're doing a lot for women. They were the one that rescued that woman with the blade, the man was killed. They took her to the hospital, the daughter to the hospital, and they took her in right now, and they made sure the man was arrested and sent to jail.
That's interesting. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Dr. Grace. We have to move on now. At this point, I'm going to call on the president of our Noble Association, in the presence of Eucharia Ilo, to address this gathering. Ms. Ilo.
Thank you, everyone. I'm so happy we are able to have this conference done. I'm so thankful to everyone for making this video conference a success. Emerald Ladies Organization, particularly happy for donating your time and talent, more especially to our esteemed speakers today, Dr. Maureen, Dr. Grace, and Dr. Ednah. It is so wonderful. I'm sure everybody have a lot to take home today. Everybody have a lot. And I'm sure the participants benefited immensely from the information shared today. I truly believe that the information is the key efficient to health care. And in fact, if you're not informed, you end up deformed. Information is the key. all that was spoken is very, very beneficial. Both the hypertension, the diabetes, and more especially the abuse and battered cases, which is very rampant in our world of today. Just like Dr. Grace said, even though women are being abused, men likewise are being abused. And I would like us to take home those principles of respect, and apply it and see how we're gonna make the world a better place as it pertains to abuse and battery. I also have to thank members of the production crew. They did marvelous work, and also our moderators. Thank you. And I also have to thank you for your patience. Everybody is so patient. I'm so delighted seeing the number of people still, online and listening to all that is being taught tonight. I also want to thank members of Emerald Ladies Executives and other members of Emerald Ladies for supporting the organization leadership. Without their support, this presentation we did today wouldn't have been a success. I applaud each and every one of you and thank you all. And I hope the support will continue as we seek to grow, to grow the organization and put it to a greater height. I thank you all. Thank you all. Please, we have a lot to take home today. And for further information on our activities of this great organization, Emerald Ladies, and to support our charitable work that we do, when you look on the screen below, you will see our informations. You can make your donations, or you can send any information you have to help us. It's a long way to go. It's a difficult task, but not that difficult if you work together as a team. We need support of the community. We need support of our fellow individuals to help us to move it to a greater height. Thank you all one more time for being here and being patient, for staying such a long hour with us. We appreciate you all. We love you all. Thank you all, and God bless.
Thank you, my president. Thank you for your unwavering support. Whenever I called on you, whenever I needed anything, you made sure it happened. Thank you so much. I want to thank the audience. I want to thank you for staying the course with us. And we've come to the end of this symposium. I say thank you for coming. I want to thank my symposium committee members, Jacinta Obi, Ogiehor-Enomah, Choma, Choma Echozana. She is a little bit under the weather, so she couldn't take part in this symposium, but she was very, very helpful in putting this together. I also want to thank Emerald Ladies for their support, coming out en masse and taking in all this information we have today. I hope you can put this into use in your family, in your church, in your other relationships you have, and in the society at large. And last but not the least, I want to thank the speakers. Thank you so much, Dr. Maureen, Dr. Ednah, Dr. Grace. You guys made our day today. Thank you for all the information you've given us, and we'll make sure we put them to good use. Having said that, we pray to Almighty God to bless and abide with each and every one of us. And I pray that you guys all stay safe and good night. Thank you. Thank you.
you.